Hi, Atomic Smartphone. It is now 6 o'clock, and we are bringing our Duncanville City Council meeting to order, September 4th, 2018. And we'll start with the working session briefings and going into our regular session. With some housekeeping in terms of our time frames tonight. We are going to reverse orders just a little bit in terms of the content of the briefings. We're going to take the City Council calendar first, get that under our belt, understood first thing, and then we will take the city-wide parking issues, and then we'll do the zoning ordinance update. The reason for that is we are going to promptly cease these briefings at 6:30. Done or not, we will finish these briefings at 6:30 and go into executive session at basically 6:31. And do everything we possibly can to conclude briefing session around 6:50 or 6:53, something like that. So we will promptly start City Council at 7 on the nose. Yes, ma'am.
Should we have a full council before we do calendars?
That probably would be nice, but we don't have the luxury.
Okay. Just have to redo it.
Okay. Well, in terms of, Mr. Hugman's asking if we want to, if we don't finish the briefings by 6:30, if we want to continue them, it's a possibility. It just depends on how much time we have left after executive session.
Well, I mean, at the end of the regular.
Well, at the end of the regular meeting? Not really.
Okay.
And then should we start reducing that, but we don't feel rushed and we'll get all the information in and have it on there and not cover it?
We may have to pick some of it up at another meeting. They are working briefing sessions. So there are no decisions to be made as a result of those briefings. Simply information input, so we can carry those into another meeting if we need to. Okay. So first order of business will be the City Council calendar. That's, oh, I'm sorry, what? Oh, discuss the agenda items, okay. Sometimes I have to follow the agenda even itself. Okay. So, Mr. Hugman, would you discuss the agenda items, please?
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council. Tonight on the consent agenda, item 4A are the minutes from the August 7th meeting, the August 9th budget meeting, the August 20th special meeting, and the August 21st City Council regular meeting. Item 4B is a resolution to enter into a joint election agreement, an election services contract between Dallas County and a number of other cities, including the city of Duncanville. And this is a contract that would enable Dallas County to administer the November 6th bond election for the city of Duncanville. Item 4C is a resolution authorizing a renewal of a one-year contract with Data Pros. Data Pros provides our water billing, printing, mailing, and electronic billing services for our water utilities. They mail out about 150,000 statements a year, and this includes postage, printing, and all services associated with the billing, including e-billing. Those are all of the items on the consent agenda. On the regular agenda, item 5A is a public hearing and considering ordinance for a specific use permit for a special event center located at 723 South Cockrell Hill Road. And we'll give a presentation on that. That has been before Planning and Zoning Commission. Item 5B is a public hearing and considering an ordinance for a specific use permit for a party events facility at 928 South Cedar Ridge. Again, Chastity Allen Benson will provide a presentation on that. That item has also been to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yeah, I don't want to spend a bunch of time on it now, but I would like for us to consider on the zoning, request for zoning changes that we have, that the staff make a recommendation.
Do they have power to make a recommendation?
Well, not
Going
necessarily on
forward.
these, but
Oh.
going forward.
Okay.
Item 5C is a public hearing, second public hearing on proposed tax rate. Item 5D is a public hearing and consideration of an ordinance extending the curfew ordinance for an additional 3 years. This ordinance was first adopted in 1994, and by state law, it must be reviewed every 3 years by the city council and extended if the council desires to.
May I ask if there are any substantial changes to it? I looked at it, I didn't see any.
No, ma'am, there's not been any substantial changes within the past few years. It has been since it was originally adopted.
Okay, thank you.
Item 5E is a resolution approving a negotiated settlement between Atmos City Steering Committee and Atmos Energy Corporation. This is for a rate request by Atmos. In April of this year, the Atmos filed a rate request of $42 million. Through the negotiated rate review process, the consortium of Atmos cities reduced that request to $27.4 million, and then through further negotiation, reduced that to $24.9 million. They do recommend approval of the negotiated settlement amount. That will, for the average monthly residential bill, would increase by about $1.06, and average monthly commercial bill would increase by $3.20. And this also does include reimbursement of attorney's fees. Item 5F is a resolution awarding a bid for the Forest Hills Alley reconstruction and drainage improvements to Munice Construction Company. This was competitively bid, and the low bid was Munice. They have previously done work for the city, doing water and wastewater improvements in the Redbird addition along Lodima Lane, and we've had good success with them in the past.
Hey, where's the company located?
They are, they're out of Dallas. They're Dallas-based construction company. And that is within the budgeted amount.
I have a question that I don't need an answer here, but maybe during the presentation out there. There's a reference in the background material that we're adding a 10-year storm sewer, and I'm just curious as to why that's not designed to a 100-year frequency.
Item 5G is a resolution awarding a bid for wastewater improvements pipe bursting to Vortex Turnkey Solutions. This was also competitively bid. This will replace almost 30,000 linear feet of 6- and 8-inch sanitary sewer main and replace it with 8-inch high-density polyethylene sewer pipe. This is generally in the Daniel Acres, Flame East, Forest Hills, and Presidential Estates area. Vortex was the low bid, and because of the bids came in a lot lower than we expected, we were able to increase the scope of work by working with the city attorney on that, following the state requirements. So we've increased the scope of work in that project. This is within the budget. Vortex we have not used, but they have good references, and they are headquartered in Houston. Yes, sir.
By board, or you, is this from by board, or you just bid
This
it
is
out?
bid.
to
This is
bid,
competitively
you know,
bid.
And where are they located?
They're out of
Houston? Thank you.
Item 5H is to consider nominations for the election of places 11 to 14 on the Board of Trustees for the Texas Municipal League Intergovernmental Risk Pool. We provided that ballot to you. There are a couple of incumbents that are running again, and a couple of the places do not have incumbents running. Those are all the items.
Thank you. Some ground rules for tonight. We do have a pretty heavy agenda. On the public hearings, what I would like to do, if no objection from the city attorney, is that when we have the public hearing, that we not close the public hearing until everyone's had an opportunity to speak that wishes from the citizenry, and that we as a council have had an opportunity to ask those individuals who speak at the public hearing any questions of clarification or elaboration, not to debate the issue with those individuals, but just so that we get a full understanding of what the applicant or the individuals that have come forth to speak during the public hearing have to say. Now, when we complete that particular process in terms of asking questions, is again for elaboration or clarification, that's when we will take a motion to close the public hearing. And at that point, after the public hearing is closed, we as a council will then deliberate on the issues. Okay, so this gives a better opportunity for interaction with the individuals that wish to speak, and closing the public hearing, then we as a council can go further in making our decision process. Acceptable?
Yes, sir.
I think it's much better that we do it that way, and gives a much more open opportunity for everyone to speak. Okay. So, moving on, as I said, we will start with item 2B, and this is discuss the city council calendar. Mr. Odom.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. A couple of things that would like to get scheduled or questions tonight. As noted in the memo, October 2nd is the National Night Out. That is the same night as your council meeting. The National Night Out starts at 5 o'clock. Of course, your council meeting would start at 6, so wanted to find out if the council wants to cancel that meeting or continue with it as scheduled.
Cancel it, if we don't have any business. Because
We
that's.
can always make business.
No, but have you ever been to a National Night Out?
Yeah.
Well, we used to have them in our districts.
We
And
used to
then
have them in our block, we used to have block parties.
Each district had their own. And then we decided to put it together and have it in the field house. But it's an opportunity to see people from your district and also other ones. If, I don't know, if, I mean, it used to be really a lot of people.
There are a lot of people, and there's a lot of booths and different organizations set up for it. So I think it's at the rec center.
Yes, sir.
At the rec center, not field house. Well, it used to be an opportunity to get to really visit with citizens.
As far as we know, Chastity, so we don't have anything coming that's critical from P and Z that we know.
No zoning cases.
So we can work around that, the council.
I'm inclined to agree with Ms. Jameson that the council may.
I'm inclined to agree as well. It's a good opportunity for us to be visible and accessible to our citizenry. And unless something comes up that is unforeseeable but is an emergency and critical to the operation of the city, I think it would be a good idea to go ahead and cancel that meeting. Is there, we're all okay with that? Okay. So question, do we reschedule that for the next Tuesday? So then we have back-to-backs, or do we do it at the end, or do we only have one meeting for the month? How does that operate?
Well, the next week is well, TML starts the next week. Although it starts on Wednesday, and since you're not traveling, that's really not an issue. That's up to y'all. I mean, we typically just, normally just skip the meetings. We just work.
Charter says you only have to have one a month, so we can cover it.
Okay. We're good then.
Okay.
All right.
Second thing is wanted to see if wanted to schedule your board and commission interviews. Board appointments by their terms expired August 30th. Of course, board members will continue to serve until their replacements are named or they are reappointed. But I wanted to see when y'all would like to schedule those interviews.
Have any recommendations for us to consider?
Not specifically, but there are about 45 people who have reapplied or are new applicants. And so allowing time to interview each, I think in the past you've had allotted about 10 minutes per interviewee, which is a pretty tight schedule. So that's 6 an hour. So you're looking at 7 hours worth of interviews. 7 to 8 hours, so you're probably looking at 3 nights. I think you want to go too late. You know, I would not go past 9 o'clock. And if you want to invite someone here after 9 o'clock for an interview. And then typically y'all have used the last hour or so to consider your appointments and consider who you want to put on those different boards. And you want to allow some time for that as well.
So 3 consecutive nights, we can get September, it's 24, 25, or 26.
I'm traveling that week.
Okay. Does that push us into October, or does it push us to
Next week?
12, 13, and 17?
I'm not available 12 through 14, I'm available on the 17th.
I'm sorry.
I'm available on the 17th, not the week before.
What, are you talking about September?
Yep.
I can't do 12.
5, 6, and 10.
That's tomorrow.
Oh, that's. Hey, I don't even remember what happened Saturday. The weekend went by in a flash. Sheesh.
If you want to look, if you're going to cancel your October 2nd meeting, if you want to look at that first week of October, maybe doing a couple of nights there,
That'd be good.
2, 3 nights.
October.
So you're saying 3, 4, and 5?
Or you do
Or
first,
1, 3, and 4, maybe. October 1, October 3, October.
or you could do some in the next week too, the 8th and 9th, if you wanted to.
Nobody's doing anything first week of October.
The
Get it
8th,
done.
the 8th is Columbus Day. Is that a holiday the city observes?
No, unless it's something new.
No, we don't close on Columbus Day. Okay,
I've got a conflict on the 1st, October the 1st.
okay.
I could do it 2, 3, 4. No?
Just cancel the 2nd.
2 is the
2
night
is
out.
yeah.
National Night Out.
3, 4, 5.
3, 4, 5.
Yeah, I'm good, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, no.
Well, it's football night on Friday night.
3, 4, 8.
That's right.
3, 4, 8.
8.
3, 4, 8. 3, 4, 8. 3, 4, 8, going once.
I'm good with 4, 8.
I have, from September 15th to the end of October, I coach a robotics team. And so, and they meet every night, Monday through Saturday. So I'm just letting you know, I'll try to be here when I can.
Okay.
There's no way accommodating my schedule.
Okay. So, Mr. Cooks, what we
3,
saying?
4, 8 is good.
3, 4, 8. Good. 3, 4, 8. Going once. Going twice. October, 3, 4, 8. What, 6 to 9?
Yep, 6 to 9.
Okay. October, 3, 4, 8. 6 to 9 p.m. Very good.
And then just to confirm that we had slotted the retreat, the council retreat for October 25th through the 27th. We're still trying to determine a location right now. As far as the locations, Glen Rose is booked, and but we have Lake Texoma has a conference center, Granbury has a conference center, and then there's Possum Kingdom. So I wanted to see if there was any preference. So we put some 2 nights.
I am fine with whatever y'all decide, since this is my first. Any past experiences, any past inputs that help make the decision on those 3 that are available? Any preferences, anything up to the top?
And what were the dates you said?
25, 26, and 27. That's the dates we've settled on.
Of October.
Yes.
Okay, I can't 25, 26, or 27.
Okay, 20, none of them?
October 23rd to the 28th, I'm gone.
What I was wanting to do was, it sounds like 3 full days, it's not. What I was hoping to do was to have a social time the night before, which would be the Thursday night. And then we would convene into the retreat on Friday all day, and then on Saturday half a day. So when we're talking 3 days, don't think it's 3 full solid days. That's the plan.
I say we go with the least expensive. Because those sound like good choices.
Well, actually, changing the dates now would rearrange the possibilities of what's available. Mr. Hugman could go back to those that are now not available and see what is available. If we change the dates, well, we have to change the dates. So we're looking at, what, 31, 1 and 2? 31 October, 1 and 2? No, I'm sorry, take that back. Thursday evening, November 1st, all day November 2nd, half a day November 3rd, Saturday.
I'll be out of town.
You're out of town. Okay. How about December 29th, 30th?
Sandra Meadows, basketball.
It's Sandra Meadows basketball.
That's what it
You was
counts.
joking around, can't maybe. Well, that pushes us into November, and everybody's schedule gets very, very tight heading into the holidays.
November, I just can't. NLC, November 6th and 11th.
I'm sorry, say again?
Oh,
please?
and then I have November 29th. Just November 6th through the 11th.
November 6th.
Through the 11th is NLC.
Yeah. that's-
Yep, yeah, we're all out, we're in LA
And
for
then
that.
I'm out November 29th through December 1st.
What about 15, 16, 17? November 15, 16, 17.
This is half day on the 15th and 16th and 17th? Half day on the 15th, what you're saying.
15th will be an evening social.
Okay.
Full day on the 16th, half day on the 17th.
I have a conflict on the meeting the 17th.
Okay. Wow, next weekend is Thanksgiving. Do we push this into 2019, folks?
I know we talked about trying to get out. I just, if everybody's schedule's so tight, why not just have the retreat here? Find a date here to do it.
Yeah, we try to sit at the hotel. You don't go again.
Well, wherever we have it, you still have conflicts, whether it's here or whether it's an hour and a half away.
That's true.
Doesn't make any difference. Location is not an issue. It's schedules.
And the 1st of November,
1st of November, 1, 2, and 3. Somebody,
And I think
He's gone,
Leslie was
Leslie's
out.
gone.
that's right.
I mean, there's not anything that says it has to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday either. You wanted to look at a day and a half, or a day, or otherwise.
what about the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday?
Can we do it the week of October 15th?
October 15. Well, we got the city council on the 16th. Um, 14, well, let's see, no. Can't cancel the city council on the 16th. religious obligations on Sundays. The calendar shows a proposed town hall on the 23rd. That's still,
Just tentative.
that's the tentative. 22, 23, 24.
I can't do 23 through 28. That's where we were.
That's right. 3 is out. 8.
But you can't do the 22nd?
23 through the 28.
So, we have nothing, the information we're recovering is that we can't get it into a whole day on the 22nd? Find another half
Probably do
day,
it in a day.
find another half a day somewhere else?
That's not, that kind of defeats the purpose. It's sort of,
You ran out of options, so
well,
we keep going back and forth.
29th, 30th. You said you was back on the 28th.
Yeah, that's, someone gets back in town, you would obligate, right into.
I'm sorry, Lester, I can't hear you.
So if someone gets right back in town, you don't want to obligate them to go right back into, I mean, they probably have to,
Well,
I mean, I don't want to,
that would be her call. You're gonna be wiped
I
out.
guess it would depend, yeah. It would depend on where you're going. Yeah. If it's,
Local, it's easier.
well, no, it's,
Well, the 29th, the way I understand it, you would have, that'd be an evening.
So,
you'd have-
well, no. We could- You could miss the social on the night of the 28th when you get back. We could go full session on Monday the 29th and half session on the 30th.
well, I don't think that I'd want to get back on the 28th and drive to somewhere for the first thing in the morning, no.
Okay, that's, yeah, that's basically what.
I thought he was, what you were saying, if it was like,
Yeah, if it was an evening, if
Evening,
the social
that
was
would-
on the
yeah.
29th.
give me at least time to maybe do some laundry before I'm done.
So social on the 29th, full day 30, half day 31st.
Halloween. Be home in time for trick or treat.
That's fine.
Could even wear costumes.
Just put some eggs in a basket at your house and say, you know,
Eggs?
have at it. I'm not home, have at it.
Chocolate.
where you, running out of time.
29, 30, 31. Evening social on the 29th. Full day 30. Half day, maybe 3/4 day on 31. Yes?
Yeah.
Really?
If it's the evening, the 29th.
Yep, it'll be evening, yep. 29, 30, 31. Okay, so Mr. Hugman, if you'll recontact those locations and see what we can get in.
Probably Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or,
Probably not.
yeah.
Probably a better way.
And who are you looking at?
Well, we tried Glen Rose, Lake Texoma, Granbury, and Possum.
Lake Texoma was,
Tanglewood. Tanglewood Conference Center. I don't know if y'all ever been there or not. I've been there as long.
These dates may open up in April.
Do y'all have a preference? Glen Rose, Possum Kingdom?
place I really liked, I think they said that it had turned into a hunting lodge, that it was, when we went to,
Lake Whitney.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was at Lake Whitney, but it was like, you know, big room, manual.
Okay,
I don't like that tea.
my atomic smartphone says it's now 6:30. So based on that, we are going to recess our briefing session and go into executive session. All right, it is 7 o'clock, calling to order the Duncanville City Council meeting, September 4th, 2018. And we welcome all of you here tonight. In order to get started, I'd like to invite Pastor Brian Carter from Concord Church to do our invocation. Pastor, please stand.
Thank you for this opportunity to lead in prayer and share together and encourage you for the great work. Grateful for our members, Mr. LeBlanc, Councilman LeBlanc and Councilman Cooks, and it's a joy to serve together in the Duncanville community. Heavenly Father, we come today and we say thank you. Thank you for your love and your care that you show to us in so many ways. Thank you for the blessing of another day, and we say thank you. Thank you for local government. And your word tells us that we ought to pray for our government and our officials. So today we come today we come lifting up the Duncanville City Council. Father, we pray that you would give them discernment and integrity, and wisdom and knowledge and the strength to fulfill the assignment before them. We pray Micah 6 and 8 over this entire body. Your word declares, and what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before your God. Help our mayor and city council to act with justice and truth. May they make justice a top priority, to choose what is right over what is convenient or comfortable. Help them to have mercy, a heart of compassion for the poor, for the least, and for the left behind. Help them to walk with humility, not pride or arrogance, but with grace for the opportunity to serve. And Lord, when the days get long and the journey gets lonely, may they remember that in weakness they can find strength in you. We pray for every staff member, department, board, committee, commission, and other entities connected to the City Council. Lord, we pray for Mayor Gordon, the City Council, the councils, county officials, and state officials, that they all may work together to serve our community. And finally, above all, we pray for the spirit of unity, that despite our differences, politically or philosophically, grant them a common passion for the greater good and what's best for the citizens of Duncanville. We pray for Duncanville to be a city of champions, both in word and in deed. Please use them to accomplish great things for you. Father, we say this prayer in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please remain standing and join us in our pledges to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. You may be seated. Moving on to our agenda for reports. First is the mayor's report. I would like to report that Councilmember Cooks and I did survive throwing out the first pitch at Rough Riders baseball last Saturday. I know mine hit the dirt. Did yours hit the dirt?
No, hit the hand.
Yeah. Okay, well, but mine was faster and straighter. And it was quite enjoyable, and we thank the Rough Rider baseball team for doing that for us, and hopefully we can do it again and have some more participation next year. Any council members' reports? Mr. Cooks.
Yes, Mayor, I want to echo your fun time. I know yours was straighter and hit the dirt, but I made it to the pitcher's glove. So I just want to make an announcement. Looking at the Best Southwest, I have a mental health youth summit for the 7th through 12th grade, Saturday, September the 8th at Methodist Charlton Medical Center. So if you know anyone, any children, that mental health is a very important issue in our society. So I'm glad the Best Southwest is supporting this mental health summit for 7th through 12th graders, Saturday, September the 8th. And I'm encouraging, if anyone knows any students that need to attend, please invite them. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further information needs to be given by council members, city managers report. Okay, moving on to item number 2 on the agenda, proclamation recognizing September as National Preparedness Month in Duncanville. And Chief Chase, will you join me? Proclamation, whereas each year brings the potential for tornadoes, floods, wildfires, droughts, pandemics, acts of terrorism, including cyber attacks and other emergencies that can occur with little warning, if any, and whereas the City of Duncanville has partnered with Southwest Regional Emergency Management and the Texas Division of Emergency Management to urge our residents to prepare for all hazard emergencies and disasters and to educate themselves on individual and family emergency preparedness. And whereas preparedness is key to being ready to face threats and reduce the loss of life and property. Families can help minimize the impact of emergencies and disasters by preparing themselves, their family members, and their community for the unpredictable nature of these incidences. And whereas Duncanville residents are encouraged to develop and practice emergency plans that include a communication strategy with their family and establish emergency meeting locations. Everyone should build a 3-day disaster preparedness kit for their homes and vehicles. These kits should contain supplies of food, water, medicine, and important documents along with other essential items for young children, seniors, those with access and functional needs, and those with medical devices and family pets. Now therefore, I, Barry L. Gordon, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, Texas, do hereby proclaim September as National Preparedness Month in the City of Duncanville and urge everyone in our community to learn more and participate in emergency preparedness activities available in Duncanville and to visit the regional Know What to Do Emergency Preparedness website. In witness thereof, I have to set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Duncanville to be affixed this 4th day of September 2018. Chief, for all that you do with emergency preparedness and our firefighters, along with our first responders and police, we thank you for all that you do and proclaim this National Preparedness Month.
On behalf of the Duncanville Fire Department, our Emergency Management Coordinator, Tanya Hunter, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, she's in DeSoto tonight accepting the same proclamation. We encourage you to be prepared for, especially now, starting hurricane season. The entire area was put on alert Saturday, I believe, for the storm coming in. It was downgraded, we were downgraded, so we're prepared. We ask that y'all do the same, because even if the weather does not make it up this far, the people will, and we need to prepare as an area for that to happen, as we saw last year with the largest disaster in the, I think we just had a disaster. Maybe that was for the best.
Yes, so you're done, Chief. Okay. Moving on to item number 3 on the agenda, citizens input. At this time, 2-minute comments will be taken from the audience on any topic. To address the council, please submit a fully completed request card to the city secretary prior to the beginning. I see none. Is that correct? You have some. Okay. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the City Council cannot discuss issues raised or make any decisions at this time. Issues may be referred to city staff for research and possible future action, and comments are limited to 2 minutes, which will be timed. The first individual is Amelia Moore. first one not.
Ready?
Yes.
Well, since you're working on the budget, I wanted to say something about Duncanville ISD. I have a letter. The Texas Education Agency notified Duncanville ISD that Duncanville High School students are eligible to transfer to another school district under the new state accountability system. Duncanville High School did not meet the requirements for Index 4 post-secondary readiness, and I have copies of that letter if you guys would like one. As far as residency, during enrollment, I had to prove 3 different times that I was a Duncanville resident, and the non-residents were sent through the line ahead of me. I was wondering what contributions do non-residents as well as apartment residents make to our school system. As far as textbooks, the textbooks that are bought with our tax dollars, were not made available to students. We asked for textbooks and we're told they'll mark them up, lose them, they're too heavy, etc. I could give endless examples of why using my taxes in order to throw more money at a problem that money won't fix is a bad idea. Perhaps withholding funds until the people responsible for the schools decide to pull them up to standards might be a better way of doing things. And if you'd like a copy of the letter, I have copies. Can I give
Okay,
them to
thank
her?
you. Mr. Mangum has requested to speak about the tax rate. We have a public hearing on this tonight. If you would prefer to wait until that time, you're welcome to. In fact, you'd have more than 2 minutes.
Whatever is your pleasure.
I'm making it your pleasure.
I'll just wait for it.
Okay, all right, fine. I'll hold this and somebody help me remember. Okay. Okay, moving on to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. And City Secretary, would you please read consent agenda?
Consent agenda 4A is consider the minutes for August 7th, 2018, City Council regular meeting, August 9th, 2018 budget meeting, August 20th, 2018 special meeting, and the August 21st, 2018 City Council regular meeting. 4B, consider a resolution to enter into a joint election agreement and election services contract between Dallas County and other jurisdictions holding elections on November 6th, 2018, to be administered by the Dallas County Elections Administrator in accordance with the subchapter D of Chapter 31 and Chapter 271 of the Texas Election Code. 4C, consider a resolution authorizing the renewal of a 1-year contract with Data Pros, LLC, to provide water bill printing, mailing, and electronic billing services in the unit amounts bid through the City of Allen contracted number 2014-5-225 with an estimated annual expenditure of $111,500.
Thank you. The chair will accept a motion to approve. We have a motion to approve, and we have a second. Please vote. The motion is passed. Moving on to item number 5 of our agenda, items for individual consideration. Item 5A, conduct a public hearing and consider an ordinance amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance and map as heretofore amended by amending the existing LR2 local retail 2 district zoning to include an SU specific use permit for a party/event facility, parens, indoor only, close parens, on a portion of Lot 1, Callaway Addition, approximately 2.54249 acres, more commonly known as 723 South Cockrell Hill Road, Duncanville, Texas. Before we begin with this, I want to give our audience some idea of how we're going to operate the public hearing. Ms. Chastity is going to tell us the overview, And at that point, when the public hearing is opened, anyone that wishing to speak may step forward. Please give us your name and your address, and you may be asked questions by the City Council for clarification or elaboration on what you say to us in terms of in this public hearing. After everyone has an opportunity to address us, then we will close the public hearing, and then the council itself will then deliberate on the issue at hand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening, Chastity Allen Benson, City Planner. Again, the request is to amend the local retail 2 district to include a specific use permit for a party event facility, indoor only. The applicant and the owner are both present tonight. The event center would occupy approximately 6,000 square feet of the 2-tenant building that is existing on the Callaway's property. If you all have been by that site, you are also familiar that there is a new building under construction that's approximately 5,500 square feet. So the event center would occupy the building that was already existing there. There are no confirmed tenants for the new building. The applicant has indicated that they intend to pursue retail, sales, personal service uses. There will be a range of events proposed by the applicant, including weddings, family parties, church functions. They did indicate that they will not provide catering at the facility, but people can bring in food. The events are slated to be held Monday through Thursday, anytime between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m., and they are proposing Friday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. hours. With regard to the site, there are 78 existing striped parking spaces on the property. If you all have seen the site plan in the packet that was provided, the applicant is intending to restripe the parking area to add spaces to provide a total of 189 parking spaces. Now, the parking requirement for an event facility is 1 per 3 occupants because it's an assembly type of use. So it will require 119 spaces just for the event center. So the property owner does intend to restripe the area, which is paved, to accommodate the additional required parking spaces. The parking that is being proposed, the 189 spaces, only contemplates if those other tenant spaces that are vacant are occupied with retail sales, personal service uses. If any of those spaces are occupied with uses like restaurants or uses that require a higher parking count, there may be some parking concerns. Again, even though the parking requirement may be met from a zoning ordinance perspective, you also have to think about demand with regard to the uses that will occupy this space. There are 2 access drives on the property, one that is shared with the CVS pharmacy to the north, and there are median openings on South Cockrell Hill at both of those access drives. The applicant does intend to allow for alcohol to be brought into the facility. They will not sell them. They can't sell them because of our alcohol ordinance, but they can have BYOB. The applicant has indicated that they will have a licensed TABC bartender provided with the rental upon request. They've also indicated that they would have security provided for any events that start after 6 p.m. The surrounding area is primarily non-residential. There are some townhome properties to the east across Cockrell Hill. The property is approximately 350 feet from Marywood School, and between Marywood School and the subject property, well, actually the Shamyville property and the subject property, there is a residential property. Ms. Ogden, she did send in a letter of opposition. I believe it's included in your packet with regard to the request. She is also the owner of the Marywood School. As a reminder, the future land use map of the comprehensive plan does indicate this area as part of Opportunity Area 1. We do envision this area as being retail commercial development, and the opportunity to attract retail or restaurant to the site should be considered as the priority to support the vision for this area. Again, the specific use permit does allow for the council to approve conditions to make the use more compatible with the surrounding area. There are a number of conditions that are provided there in the ordinance for you that Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend, including the requirement for the TABC bartender, the requirement for the security, and P&Z also recommended that alcohol not be served until after 6 p.m., I believe, on the weekends, or during the week, I'm sorry. There were approximately 11, there were 11 notices sent out for this public hearing. One letter of opposition was received. We did have some discussion during the Planning and Zoning Commission. We did have, the owner and applicant spoke obviously in support, but we did have someone speak in opposition at the P&Z meeting. So here is the area of request. I'll give you an idea. This aerial is old, but it does show you kind of the old Callaway's property there. This is the Shamyville property that I spoke of. This is Ms. Ogden, who wrote the letter of opposition, and this is Marywood School.
Can I make it?
Yes.
Wait, so their property actually connect Ogden property and the old Callaway's in the back, am I correct?
Yes, so it's a kind of an L-shape property here. This property here, that is the storage facility, that's a separate property. But this portion here that is paved, this would be restriped with that additional parking I was talking about. Again, local retail is the current zoning. This is a map, it's a little difficult to read, that we included that shows you the event centers that are in the city that have existing specific use permits for them. This is the one on Oriole. This property here is on Freeman. This property is on Crestside. Those are the existing event centers that have specific use permits. This is the request for 723 Cockrell Hill, and this request you'll hear later tonight. This is the proposed site plan. As I mentioned, this is the existing building. This is the new building that's under construction. The applicant intends to occupy 6,000 square feet of this building. The building is required to be sprinklered based on the size of the space.
Can I ask you a question? Go ahead. Can you go back?
Yes.
So the parking that these 108, are those already there in the back of the building?
No, they would have to be striped. They would have to be added.
So where are they in proximity to, you said that other property that, I guess the long white building that we could see on the other picture, go back? Yes.
So those parking spaces would be here.
Right in, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, now, and then the other question is, with the building that's gonna have the 5,000 square feet that we don't know exactly what it's gonna be yet, with them having 108, yes, with them having 108, because we don't know what that business is gonna be, it's gonna be kind of difficult to say how many they're gonna need. Okay.
Yeah, so when we have vacant spaces, we base it on the predominant use, which would be retail, personal service. But as I mentioned, if they occupy the space with restaurant, that does have a higher parking count. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Again, that's the proposed floor plan. This tenant space is, again, preliminary. It is reflected as a restaurant, but that has not been confirmed by the property owner. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval by a vote of 5-1, approval of the request with a number of conditions, including a 1-year time period. Staff is available to answer any questions. The applicant and property owner are both here tonight.
I have a question for you.
Oh, sorry.
As long as we're opening up this time before the public hearing, I'll take it. But in your summation that you provided to us, you covered it pretty briefly here, but in your summation, you said that even though the property may meet the parking requirement of the zoning ordinance, the parking need/demand based on the tenants may exceed the parking that is available.
Correct.
Which is somewhat more of a stronger statement than what you provided in the briefing. Could you give us an understanding of the future and what you see as what could cause some significant problems on the property?
Offhand, the biggest change in terms of parking requirement is the difference between retail and restaurant. So retail parking is calculated at a 1 per 200 square feet ratio. Restaurants are calculated at a 1 per 75 square foot ratio. So they're providing 189 spaces. 166 are required if there's nothing but retail personal service. I don't have a calculator, but as you start to occupy some of that square footage with a 1 per 75 ratio, you really only have about 23 spaces to kind of play with in terms of what's being provided with the new striping. So depending on what occupies those spaces, and then also the size of those spaces. So if it's a smaller restaurant, it may not have an impact. If you get 2 out of the 6 tenant spaces, it could start to add up.
Okay, and an additional question, the space of those additional parking spaces that are going to become impossible in the future, that used to be just display place for flowers and shrubs and so forth.
Correct.
Does the surface meet our ordinances of improved parking or improved space? What's the right word? Improved land
Right.
in order to park a vehicle?
The-
Or is the tenant going to have to, owner going to have to do something to improve that space?
They are concrete, but we would require them to confirm. They have to use like coring to see if the thickness would meet the parking the thickness for requirement for parking, which is just 5 inches, I believe.
So at this point, we don't know that those services are going to be.
Correct. It hasn't been
cored.
cored. It hasn't been cored to know if it's, meets the thickness to support parking.
Are we not then premature on this?
Well, the question is if the expense, I guess, with going through that process and the zoning may or may not be approved. They're not required to add this parking unless they occupy this event center. The parking requirements for the retail spaces can be accommodated, but the additional 119 spaces are required because of the event center.
Should a condition have been included by P&Z, or do we need to include a condition that that land is, or the parking spaces themselves are going to comply with ordinances before we take a decision on this?
There's already a condition in the ordinance that states they will comply with all applicable building, fire, and zoning requirements, and that would be one of the requirements. If you want to explicitly state that, you could.
We could. Okay, that would be something that we as the council would discuss at our time. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions of Ms. Benson by the council before we open the public hearing?
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
The parking lot as is shown, I know that scale is such, we can't really tell, but does it have all the proper landscaping, or is he likely to lose some more parking spaces when it's landscaped?
Well, yeah, the islands that you can see here are already contemplating that, as well as here. Since these are already existing pavement, I guess they could conceivably say if the pavement doesn't meet the requirement and they have to remove it and add new concrete, they could conceivably on that back row. But the other ones would meet the requirement. They've already contemplated that.
I was primarily thinking about the back.
The back row.
Because I think the ordinance is going to apply to it as well.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Jameson?
On the alcohol part, are those going along with the same rules that we have for the other event centers?
Yes, the event center that was recently renewed on Oriole did have a condition that it had to have a licensed TABC bartender. I think on that one, the condition for the security was that it had to be an officer, a police officer.
And there were supposed to be so many officers per how many people were attending?
That wasn't spelled out in the last one, but there was a specific condition that the security be an officer, a peace officer.
We need to spell that out, because when you start getting huge crowds, I know at the field house, we are very specific about how many officers per how many people are attending. And if you've got alcohol involved, there's a whole lot of things. It looks to me like this needs to be tightened up. It's a little loose.
We can take that up after the public hearing as well.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Right, as a specific use permit, council can add whatever conditions they deem appropriate.
Definitely.
I'll wait.
Oh, Mr. Cook, or did you? Okay. If there's no other comments or questions to Ms. Benson from the council, we will open the public hearing at 7:30 p.m., September 4th, 2018. Anybody wishing to speak, please come forward. State your name and your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Shfaq Ahmad. I'm the owner of the property 723 South Crocker Hill, and she's my tenant.
And your personal address, please?
Last name Ahmad.
Your address?
720. My home address are
Yes.
4523 South. 4523 Byron Circle in Irving, Texas 75038.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, her name is Jasmine, and she's a tenant, and she's a very experienced person. She have two event center already. She running that place, and she know the mostly everything how they're running that event center. This is my first property in Duncanville area. I have other properties in Dallas and Fort Worth areas. I'm trying to bring my all business in this city, plus I have some DeSoto and Glen Heights city too. So that's my first opportunity. I'm bringing the standard marketing plus standard buildings and follow the rule, whatever the requirements. Plus for the event center is good for the community, whatever we are looking for, plus restaurant business. But I don't have the restaurant yet, but I'm have a beauty salon next to that. She almost ready to move in very soon. And plus, I have a small retail space for the 5,500 square feet, which one I'm building right now. And the small retail people, just like I have Boost Electronics and smoke shop. And plus, I have Nike shoes, something like that. But I don't have more restaurant there. But my parking, I have 285 parking, total complete. 285 parking?
You're proposing 189.
189. By my requirement, only 119. And even if when I go to the restaurant, still I have more parking than otherwise I use. That's what I want to tell what I have, sir. Thank you.
Does anybody on council have any questions for the applicant?
I do. You mentioning that you're moving from Dallas?
No, I have some other property in Dallas.
Tell me a little bit about what your property in Dallas is. It very similar to what you're proposing here?
Yes, sir. I have shopping centers and gas stations.
Okay.
And I have some like same tenants. I have supermarkets plus individual tenant. About one big shopping center, if you're familiar with the Mountain View College, just across the street, Mountain View Plaza. I have a 38,000 square feet shopping strips. And I just built 2 years ago next to that on Duncanville Road, 2410 Duncanville Road, about 12,000 square feet also. And one I'm building right now, very soon in DeSoto, Bedline and Crocker Hill, 11,000 square feet shopping strip and gas station.
Is it being occupied right now? So I'm understanding. Is it being occupied right now?
No, I have 3 shopping centers occupied already in Dallas area.
And what's in it? What's in it? Occupied with what? What type of retail?
Retail, I have different retails, just like I have a very big supermarket, Spanish supermarkets. I have a Boost Electronic. I have a Wash and Dry. I have a H&R Block. I have a Domino Pizzas. I have about 16 different tenants.
I keep hearing a restaurant, and I'm just trying to figure which type of restaurant do you have in your other facilities.
Okay, my other property, I have a restaurant, Latina, is a Salvador restaurant, is about 4,000 square feet. And plus I have a bakery, and I have wing stops. I have 3 restaurants in my other location.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. And
Question, anybody else? Sir? It aggregate the total square footage, both of the new building and the existing property.
Yes, sir.
And what percentage of the total aggregate property would be dedicated to retail or services versus the event center?
I'd say only 25%.
25% of the
Yes.
total square footage
Total
would
square
be
footage.
retail or services?
Yes,
The
sir.
rest of it, 75% of the total property would be toward an event center?
Retail, no. Only 25% for the event center and 75% for the retail.
Inverted. 25% for the event center, 75% for retail, restaurant
Yeah,
services.
total property size 5,600 square feet. I'm sorry, 10,500 square feet total, which is 6,000 going to only event center. So 9,000 square feet going to the retail only.
And you have committed tenants for the retail services?
I have
or
a
you're still in discussion?
Yes,
with
sir.
them?
I have a 3 committed tenant, which now I'm applying for the CEO maybe this week for the beauty salon for 5,000 square feet, and 2 other tenants applying for the 3,000 square feet for the smoke shop and the retail. The building will be ready within 2 months. New building.
Okay, thank you.
One other question for you. So are you seeking out the tenants to fill the facilities, or are they looking for you?
I'm sorry, say again.
Are you seeking out the tenant that you want to fulfill the spots? Or is it matter they just see a spot and they're calling you? Which
Yeah,
one?
people calling me, I'm handling myself, all the tenant for the leasing spaces. I don't have the broker, I'm the broker myself. So I lease myself.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The floor is open for anyone else who wishes to speak. Please give us your name and your address, please.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Yasmin Rodriguez, and my address is 235 Baylor Drive, Clayton Heights, Texas, 75154. And yes, well, we already spoke a little bit about the event center, and I have a little bit more than 5 years of experience working in the Dallas area. I have a venue in the Dallas area, and I have, people that works for our facility. We have TABC bartenders, we have security guards, also we have managers that work for us. And what I'm trying to, I would love to grow my business. I actually live maybe 10 minutes away from the new facility that I'm looking for, and I actually did call the owner of the property looking for, another event center for a grow.
The applicant did mention that he has another event center on Duncanville Road. Do you have anything to do with that one?
No, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
The floor is open for anyone else who wishes to speak. Please state your name and your address. Thank you.
My name is Colleen Ogden Fitzgerald. My address is 805 South Cockrell Hill Road, Duncanville, 75137. I am here tonight on behalf of my mom, Peggy Ogden, who was unable to attend, and I'm just simply going to recap some of her concerns, which I believe she outlined to you in the proposal letter. If you have a copy of that map in front of you, excuse me, the number 803 is my home and personal property. I have lived in this location for over 50 years. I adamantly protest the rezoning for a party event facility because of its near proximity to my property, my resident, and my daughter's residence, especially the parking area. Excuse me. Safety, security, and noise are of utmost concern. The shared border is 25 to 30 steps directly to my front door with absolutely no protective barriers or deterrents. The above stated factors are especially concerning at night when participants are allowed to bring their own liquor. These circumstances often allow for a difficult and potentially out of control situation to come about. I fully uphold community growth and retail development. I wholeheartedly protest the proposed rezoning for special use. I respectfully ask each of you, would you want this facility and its probable problems next door to your home? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on council have any questions? You, reading your mother's statement, she said her home and her daughter's, is that?
That's
is-
me,
that is
yes,
you?
yes.
And how close is your home to her home? Ms. Benson, can you pull up the line map where we can see the addresses? That one.
I am adjacent to her. I am between 803 and 807, basically behind 807 on her same property, a matter of a few hundred feet.
Okay, all right. And do you have any personal comments rather than your mother's?
I'm very opposed to this. I'm very concerned about the safety factor. I'm very concerned about the noise factor. Quite honestly, noise is a problem now coming from two restaurants across the street, especially late in the evenings on the weekends, late at night on the weekends. I'm concerned about the fact that this situation is not controlled, or potentially could not be controlled. Of course, my main concern is security and safety. There is a common shared boundary between 723 and 803, and it's a matter of steps away. So yes, I have great concerns.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
So basically, there's two of you, two
Yes.
houses,
Yes.
two different individuals.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
that's
Mhm.
two against it. And how many other houses were around? Did you get a response from?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. This property is the, go back to the zoning map. This property is the one, as I mentioned, is occupied with residential, and then there's townhomes across South Cockrell Hill. All the other properties are non-residential.
But did you get any feedback from anybody else?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Thomas?
Yeah.
Oh.
Hello, Mrs. Ogden. Your mother owns and operates the Marywood School.
Yes, she
also.
does.
So she would be also speaking against it as the owner and principal of Marywood School.
Absolutely, yes.
And
Her-
can you tell us the ages or the grades that attend Marywood?
Yes, 4 through 12, so pre-K 4 through 6th grade.
And you talk about the two restaurants across the street. Can you tell us some? Well, never mind. I'll ask someone else about that.
Okay.
Unless you have anything you want to add about the activity that goes on the weekends up and down Cockrell Hill.
Well, quite honestly, it can be quite chaotic, especially on Friday and Saturday nights. It is not. There was a time when I lived there that I would have absolutely no problem walking down my driveway to Cockrell Hill for whatever reason. I would absolutely not do that now. Absolutely not. Okay.
Mr. Cooks?
I had an opportunity to speak with your mom, and she mentioned there were some availability spots behind the facility that the children will come and play. Is that?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about that, please.
Her front yard, which is basically an open expanse between her home and Cockrell Hill, we oftentimes use that area for things like field day, for picnics, for young children, for Easter egg hunts. We have many activities that spill onto that because of the open expanse. So there are children who would be in that area during the school day. Not at night, but
Right.
during the school day, yes. We've done that for many years.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Please give us your name and your address. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Tammy Abney, and I live at 903 Westminster Lane in Duncanville, Texas. And I am standing at this time to speak in support of the Ogdens and Mrs. Fitzgerald against this SUP. I have children that attend Marywood School, and the thought of an event center at that location is concerning. There is retail and other businesses in the area, and I am definitely pro-business, but I do have concerns for a BYOB event center at that location. Already in that location, and I pulled, and I'm sure you guys have the data of the police calls from the area, from Applebee's and the other club that's there, and this is what I received, and just via email. Calls such as requests for extra patrol, and I was like, well, what does that mean? And they said, well, that means somebody from that location called and they needed help. There's theft, suspicious activity, several public intoxication in that area. So, you know, it would give me reason for pause to add something else right there in such a concentrated area, a business of that type.
Hey, Tammy, can I ask you the time frame of those calls you have there?
The time of day?
No, the dates.
This starts at 2016 through 2018. And then but it's two different, you know, locations. 911 hang-ups, there's all kinds of stuff. Also, there's already an event center right at Cockrell Hill and 20. If you go down, I guess that's north on Cockrell Hill towards Interstate 20, across from Red Lobster and Olive Garden, there's already a large event center there. So it would kind of be, you know, almost kind of like the perfect storm could happen right there in that little location with, if, you know, things were to happen, putting a strain on Duncanville police who would, you know, would be forced to respond just in the area. So again, just standing with concerns about the event center at that location and having an SUP there supporting Mrs. Ogden and Miss Fitzgerald and their personal property, that is just steps away. And then also now a smoke shop, I got concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please give us your name and your address.
My name is Misty Bain, and my address is 102 Walnut Street, Duncanville, Texas. I was curious as to if any of y'all know, how many event facilities do we actually have in this town right now? Do we know?
Yes, it's documented right there.
There's three.
Oh, there's three.
Just to indicate, there are three existing SUPs for event centers, one at Oriole, one at Freeman, and one at Crestside. This is the request for tonight and another request later today.
And then what about with our city facilities as well?
Those do not count
Okay.
as event centers.
Okay. And with the senior center right now, if they serve alcohol there, do they not have to have police? They do. They have to have police officers, not just security. Anyhow, I have real concerns about the fact that you would allow someone to just bring in like BYOB. I mean, I've had a lot of friends that have worked as TIBC servers at those type of events, and people tend to drink a lot more than they would if they're just having to pay per drink, and that's just really concerning. I also know that we have a really distressed police department right now, and they really do spend a great deal of time, like the previous speaker said, over on Cocker Hill Road with Applebee's and some of the other places over there. I don't know if that's justified that they spend all their time over there or if it's something else going on, but they are spending a great deal of time over there, so that's another thing to be concerned about. And then I also had a question about, is the building that they're going to be using for the facility, is it suited for reducing sound? Do we know?
Ms. Benson, can you answer that question?
There is no current sound attenuation in the building that I'm aware of. That could be, if it is the request of the council, that could be an additional condition that they add.
Okay. And I also have concerns for the children at Marywood as well, for the same reasons as the previous speaker. Thanks. Is that it? Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Please give us your name and your address.
Yes, hello, my name is Maria Gonzalez, and I live at 1315 Meadow Green, here in Duncanville. And my only concern, or I guess one of my biggest concerns, and I've made some comments to you, Mayor Gordon, about the need to have businesses here. But we need to be particular about the businesses that we're bringing. I don't like the idea of having a hodgepodge strip, and I know exactly where your shopping strips are in Oak Cliff, but there are other event centers that are done correctly. They're done away from the city. Via Lux just built one. Fiesta Gardens, they're away from our city, away from our main streets. So I think that we can be particular about the businesses that we're bringing in, and we don't want Duncanville to look like that. And Marywood is a cute school, and we want to be able to have those businesses. And the last thing we want is for her to move her school somewhere else because we're not being accommodating to them, to this family. So that's my comment, that I do want to encourage you all to make wise decisions about the businesses that we're bringing here to Duncanville so that our city remains a nice city. And I know we need the businesses. We do. But I'd rather be picky about the businesses that we're bringing in, and not just because we have a space available and someone that wants to use it. I'm in the market for an event center. My daughter's having a quinceañera, and listen, I would love to have an event center where VLX is great out there, but I don't want something in a shopping strip. And I don't think we want the patrons that would want something in a shopping strip to have that here in Duncanville. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, the chair will accept a motion to close the public. We have a motion to close.
Second.
Motion to close and seconded. Please vote. This is closing the public hearing. Motion to close the public hearing has passed unanimously. Council, we now may open discussion among ourselves. Ms. Thomas.
Yes, Mayor, may I ask the chief some questions?
Certainly. Please state your name and address.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hey, Chief. So I did a ride-along with one Friday night, and I know we spent a considerable amount of time, and I would say 80% of the time going up and down Cockrell Hill between Legends and Applebee's. And so I want to know, but that was just one night. I'd like to know your impression of the activity that goes on in that corridor.
The area that you just mentioned is a very busy area for our police department. Approximately 3 years ago, police administration had to reach out to the nightclub across from this area as well as the restaurant that you mentioned. We noticed that we received a lot of calls revolving criminal activity. And so we worked with those two establishments in order to bring the crime down. We did get cooperation from both of those locations, and we've seen a substantial decrease in our response. But to answer your question, that's a busy area for our police department. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Schwartz.
I'm going to be short and brief. I don't think this is the highest and best use for this property.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Thomas?
And I would like to echo that the future land use, and Chastity alluded to this, the subject property falls within Opportunity Area 1 of the future land use map or the comprehensive plan. And I'd like to keep our heights, our sites focused on that. It's high quality highway commercial development on 67. We're putting a lot of money into the gateway there. And I think that the businesses there should reflect our vision and what we're investing in that area. Should be retail, commercial development. Yeah, so I mean, y'all can read that yourself, but I echo Councilmember Schwartz's opinion.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? I have a question for Ms. Benson. Do we have any ordinance that would cover the proximity from a facility that is permitting the consumption of alcohol to a residence? That, like this one has been stated 350 feet. Do we have anything that identifies that kind of proximity?
Yes, the ratio for distance from a church and a school to a facility that sells alcohol is related to those that are licensed by the TABC. This would not be a licensed facility. So if there were a restaurant that wanted to serve alcohol, it would have to be 300 feet from a church or a school. But because this is not a licensed TABC facility, it does not have to meet that distance requirement.
So our ordinance does not address distance
It
from
does
a
not.
residence?
Correct. It just only church and school.
Okay. Another question.
Yes, sir.
The SUP is only for an event center, if I understand it correctly, that the rest of the space is already zoned for light retail.
Correct.
And depending on the outcome of this SUP, the space being constructed could still be used for additional light retail.
Correct.
Okay. So I just want to make sure for the council that we understand what's before us is that light retail is totally permissible, and the way it's currently zoned, the only thing that we're addressing tonight is an SUP for an event center in that space.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cooks?
So Chastity, we are addressing the SUP, however, for educational purposes for developers coming in. How are we doing in reference to giving them an abbreviated of our comprehensive plan to the developer? Well, they'll know what our city is looking to build in the future. So what do we do to educate our developers to know, here's what we're looking for and for it to build our city?
We do share that information when we're contacted. We actually met with Mr. Ahmed before he actually started the construction of the building and talked about the vision, the comprehensive plan, and looked at his site plan as it relates to the new construction. I will state that we also met with the applicant, but she had already signed a lease by the time she met with us. So in terms of understanding what's required for zoning and things like that, she had already committed to the space before she was aware of the zoning requirement for the zoning. But yes, we did do share that information with developers. They contact myself directly. Sometimes they also go through our economic development director, and so we do share that information. It's available on our website, and any additional information we provide to them directly.
Great. I hope any future developers, as they come to our city, will continue to look at that and grab a hold of that to know how we're looking for our city to move forward. So thank you for sharing that.
Okay, another question.
Yes, sir.
We have before us a recommendation of P&Z. I'm going to ask a question and you answer whether you can or cannot even answer the question. Are you permitted, as our city planner, to give your personal thoughts on this SUP?
As Councilwoman Thomas noted, I did include in the staff report that the opportunity to attract restaurant and retail should be the highest priority for the council with regard to maintaining the vision for the area. And so I do feel strongly related to that. That was the position that we put in the staff report as well.
So it goes back to Councilman Schwartz's very succinct statement, best use of the land for
Highest and
for our
best.
city.
Yeah, and then again, our concern related to the impact that this may have on future retailers that can occupy the other spaces.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, the chair will accept a motion.
I move that we deny the request for a special use.
We have a motion to deny the SUP, and we have a second. So in order for me to do this correctly, we have conducted a public hearing to consider an ordinance amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance and map as heretofore amended by amending the existing LR2 local retail 2 district zoning to include an SU specific use permit for a party/event facility in Doroni on a portion of Lot 1, Callaway Addition, approximately 2.5249 acres, more commonly known as 723 South Cockrell Hill Road, Duncanville, Texas. And the motion is to deny the SUP. All in favor of this motion, please vote. The motion is approved to unanimously deny the SUP for an event center at 723 South Cockrell Hill Road. Thank you. Moving on to item B, conduct a public hearing and consider an ordinance amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance and map as heretofore amended by amending the existing LR2 local retail 2 zoning to include an SU specific use permit to allow a party/event center indoor only on a portion of Duncanville Industrial District South installment, Block G, approximately 0.9822 acres, more commonly known as 928 South Cedar Ridge, Suite A, Duncanville, Texas. Ms. Benson.
Okay. Again, the request before you tonight is to amend the local retail 2 district to include a specific use permit for a party event facility indoor only. This is not deja vu. This is another case. The applicant is Yvette Martinez and the property owner is Roy Cannon. Both are present tonight. The applicant currently occupies a tenant space in this building. They were issued a certificate of occupancy in 2017 for an event planning office only with decor, storage, and display. The applicant began to utilize the space for events without approval of a specific use permit or authorization by the city. So the applicant is coming forward now to request the specific use permit to comply with the zoning ordinance. The applicant has indicated that based on the size of this space, which is approximately 1,400 square feet, they will have a range of smaller events geared more towards baby showers, bridal showers, things of that nature. They have indicated that they will mostly be small functions. They did have a modification to the time that is listed on the staff report and what they presented to P&Z. They are proposing to start events Thursday and Friday at 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. and then on Saturday and Sunday from noon to 10 p.m. Again, days of operation would be Thursday through Sunday. They've indicated that they have proposed not to have events Monday through Wednesday to alleviate conflicts with the cosmetology school that you all may recall was approved last year. And they have evening classes for the school, so that would reduce some of that conflict. The occupant load for the space is approximately limited to 49 people due to the limited exits that are available in that suite, which would require 16 spaces dedicated for the party and event facility. There are currently 63 spaces on that property. If you all recall, the property had to be restriped with the cosmetology school to accommodate some additional spaces. And so they've just recently done that. And so 63 spaces are provided, but with the events facility, 80 spaces would be required. There doesn't appear to be an opportunity to add any additional parking. They just recently restriped it. The applicant does contend that the hours of operation and the days are staggered with the other tenants, and there wouldn't be parking conflicts. And the applicant, again, is present tonight. This is just a brief overview of the parking requirement for some of the tenant space or the tenant spaces that are proposed. So again, based on the current use of her existing CO, 5 spaces are required, but when you go to an event facility, it goes up and 16 would be required. The applicant has indicated that alcohol, again, will not be sold at events. However, patrons would be able to bring in alcohol for consumption. They've indicated that they typically don't receive requests for those types of, for alcohol at the types of events that they hold there. But should council recommend approval, it is recommended that a condition be added requiring a TABC licensed server. The applicant is not currently proposing any security. Again, the purpose of a specific use permit is to add conditions that would make the use appropriate and compatible with the surrounding areas. The property is zoned local retail. It is surrounded by a mix of light commercial retail uses, and therefore, as mentioned by Mayor Gordon, the last case, any other local retail 2 uses can occupy that building. This property also falls within an opportunity area as indicated on the future land use plan of the comprehensive plan. The area is envisioned as the city's light industrial, heavy commercial, and office hub. The existing development pattern is more retail and light commercial in nature. If you all are familiar with the property, it really wasn't developed as a retail shopping center, and therefore it's limited in its ability to fully accommodate all of those uses just based on the limitations of the size of the lot and the available parking. Again, with the specific use permit, council can add any conditions. When you're evaluating as a specific use permit, it is also very important to evaluate whether all of the requirements of the zoning ordinance can be accommodated by the subject property. And as I mentioned, parking cannot be accommodated on the property based on the zoning ordinance. 15 notices were sent out at the public hearing. We did receive a letter of opposition since I put the PowerPoint together. So you all have a copy of that letter. During the public hearing at P&Z, we did have 10 people to speak in support of the request, including the applicant and the owner, and we did have 2 people speak in opposition. They were 2 property owners that are adjacent to the property. Here's the area of request on the corner of Big Stone Gap and South Cedar Ridge. Again, the building here, so there's some parking here in the front, and there's also some parking that is striped at the rear of the property. Again, the same map with regard to the existing event centers in the area. This is a rough site plan of the property. Again, the tenant space is here. This is the cosmetology school that you all recently saw last year. And then again, the parking here, and there's some parking on the rear.
Outline that portion of the building that would be the event center?
At the end.
So just
it's approximately
928A.
Yes, it's approximately 1,400 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
This is a preliminary floor plan of the site indicating a seating of the maximum occupancy, which is 49 people. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of the request with all of the conditions that are provided there for you this evening. They did recommend that the SUP be approved for a 1-year time period. Again, I'm available for any questions, and the applicant and the property owner are both present tonight.
Okay. Any questions? Ms. Jamison.
I'm sort of confused. They don't have enough parking for an event center.
Correct.
Why did it go any further?
Well, with a specific use permit, council can consider specific conditions. So our parking ordinance doesn't contemplate staggered parking or varied hours of operation. It's just a flat square footage calculation. And so the consideration could be because the events would be held at times that the other tenants may not be occupying the space, council can consider that with regard to the parking.
Attorney, is that something that we should get into? Because I don't know how you can approve to one person that they can have something based on a certain number of parking spaces and then tell someone right next door the same thing. And I haven't even gotten into the fact that they're using parking from a piece of property that is totally owned by someone else and didn't say it was okay. I guess I just don't understand how this even went forward with the P&Z.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion at the P&Z. Like I said, they heard all of the public testimony, and that was their recommendation.
But
as Ms. Allen explained, there is an ability for council to require certain conditions that might accommodate the parking restrictions they have here. From what I've heard, there's an example of parking on someone else's property. Potentially, they could have a mutual parking agreement. That could be some kind of condition you'd add. Given the background that Chastity's provided, you know,
well, there's obviously not, though. There's not an agreement because there's a problem. So I think that, I'm just saying for in the future, I think we need to have some kind of understanding that if this piece of property needs this many parking places and this business needs a certain number, you can't assume that you can borrow some of these because they're not busy, because they might be busy. And they might have an event or a meeting or something.
That wasn't a condition of the P&Z that they have off-site parking or shared parking. I just want to clarify, it wasn't their condition that they have off-site or shared parking with the adjacent property. It was still that it be provided on-site, but they were considering the staggered hours for the subject property tenants.
Okay, well, I know that they are parking in places where they're not supposed to be. I know that for a fact, okay? Because that person hired a towing company to have them removed from their property. And I guess with the beauty school, they had to have so many parking spaces, and they're assuming that they can use those also?
Yeah, you can ask that question of the applicant, but yes, that is their intent, which is why they're proposing to not have hours of operation the same time that the beauty school has evening classes.
Well, I think this could be problematic because either you have the parking spaces or you don't, and to assume that you can borrow them. And I guess the other thing that I have a problem with too is that they were already operating out of compliance because they were supposed to be a business office and in fact were having events.
Correct.
So were they ticketed?
Code enforcement did go out. We do have Greg Contreras, the building official, who's present to answer any questions related to that, but code enforcement was called.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. LeBlanc.
Are they here?
Yes, the applicant and the property owner are both present.
Yeah, I would like to ask them a question.
Wait.
Any questions?
You get there.
Okay. Okay.
Any questions? Any other questions for Ms. Benson? No. Okay, we will open the public hearing at 8:13 p.m. And we invite anyone that wishes to address the council, please come forward. Please give us your name and your address.
Yvette Martinez, 7426 Elderberry Lane, Dallas, Texas, 75249. And to have some information here, I want to just kind of clarify, the type of business that we are. It is an event center, but we are a very smaller type of business. We're not the late night type of event center. We're not the DJ dance floor type. It is a small party room that holds 80% of our business is at baby showers. So as far as the parking, and if I can just show you what my business is, I do have a picture of it. If you would like to, since, you can't really tell what it is. This is a building that I took over. Oh, I'm sorry, but this is the building that I took over, and this is my building, and that's actually baby shower. that's just kind of clarification of what type of business it is. And, I mean, I have emails here that we get request for. This one says, I'm interested in a birthday party, 7:30 to 10:30, on a Saturday night, 10 to 15 guests, max. So they're not, you know, I just want to clarify, it's just a type of different event center. Now, also, I would like to present these staggered hours. The only person other than in that parking lot that is in operation pretty much is the beauty school and salon part there. So she did sign a letter for me with her hours of operation. So we both have this signature, and then mine is on the back of it, which is my hours of operation. And it's not that I'm using anybody else's because it's all one parking lot. So those 63 spaces, I'm only required to have 16. There's 63 in the shopping center. So it's not that I'm taking somebody else's because they're closed or anything. It's all one big shopping center parking lot. So I'm only operating mainly Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Sunday, we're done by 6 o'clock. We're closed. You know, baby showers don't last too long on Sunday evenings. And if I could, just kind of give you an example of some other stuff that we've had besides baby showers. We actually had Shay Steger Knight, which is running for, she was running for, she's sheriff, but she was running for city something. Council? Constable, yes. She held all of her campaigns there. She had a live watching party there. I've gotten calls from Duncanville Police Department where they want to hold their domestic violence for ladies groups there. So I've given that to them for free. I mean, it's just a space where it's family gatherings, small. And I mean, I've even had the Duncanville under-8 soccer boys wanting to do their soccer presentation for trophies in there. So just trying to give you an example of the things that were held there. Explanation of my certificate of occupancy, which I do have a copy. This says here, events by appointment. On top of it, it is written by someone in the office, I don't know, office only for event planning. That's not kind of what I put on here. I just put the display and storage is pretty much going to be Monday through Thursday. We're not open. Nobody's in there. So it is displaying all of our stuff. Oh, you scared me. There are displaying all of our stuff through the week and the events by appointment. So that writing on top of my CO was the big confusion. So when they came out and they asked, this is what, kind of got us all to come in the office, sit down and talk to them, and they said, this is what I need to do. So we're doing it with the special use. Mr. Cannon has provided this big sign that is removable that I can put up as soon as my party starts, and it says, that additional parking in the rear where he has an additional parking lot for us. So we're able to put that up now an hour before our party starts and take it down. And, Monday through Thursday when the other businesses are open, that's not, that won't be up. I have some photos like I just screenshotted our parking lot. This is Saturday evening at 10:11. We're completely done, closed, and empty. Everybody's gone. This is a Sunday afternoon. There's no overflow. Now, what's been happening, as far as the towing, I think that was before me, because I've never had a person towed. So that may have been a different business or maybe before I occupied the building, because I know there were some issues with the tenant that was there before, with the same person. If I can explain that if you ever use your GPS and you're going somewhere, when it says on there, you have arrived, I kind of in that vicinity, and I do have some elder people that sometimes kind of get lost in my area, and they kind of didn't know where they were going. They've parked in a different shopping center. So It's not because we don't have parking, there's an overflow, whatever, and they have to go and take other people's stuff. It's just kind of an error. It'll be one vehicle, two vehicles, and we have them move and come back to the right location. That is it. So I have also, I have installed a rear camera that sends me alerts to my phone. So if there's any movement behind my building at the other shopping center, it does alert my phone. So that I can see what it was or whatever. And actually, since I've installed it, there's a lot of activity going on in that parking lot. 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I get text messages, and that's not me. So also, this is the building in question that I'm sure they're going to speak opposing, because this is where people accidentally park. And there's not any no parking signs. So I think that's what causes the confusion. They just see that, you know, the building is right there. It just kind of accidentally parks there, and we have them move. If I can show you where my building is, and so this here is the parking lot that I watch on my camera to make sure no car, see that car is just kind of passing through. That's what they do constantly, and it kind of gives me an alert. So this one, they kind of use it as a pass-through sometimes. Okay, so, and this is the back of my building. So when we say additional parking in the rear, it kind of causes confusion where they just go back there. But like I said, we have it moved within a minute because I get the alert and we call them and they move. So we have been operating for a year and we have not had any incidents. I think there's a review on our Facebook saying that this is the best kept secret in Duncanville. When I do get calls, as far as like big events, they want weddings and stuff, we can't handle that. So I do refer them to our other local ones that are approved with their special uses. I think there's 3 other businesses. So I do send them that way. I work right behind this building. So, I mean, I actually go by, I go in lunch sometimes just to kind of check everything, check my parking lot, things like that. So I think that is all I brought.
I think you've done a pretty good job.
Okay.
Just stay right here.
If I could add, I mean, I don't like to, this is not for any sympathy or anything. The room does have a special meaning behind it. It is called the Emma Rose Room, and that's why we wanted something to have baby showers. This is named after my niece that passed away. So when people come in there, they do know the meaning of this room, and that's why everybody just gives it the reviews and things like that. People have left behind, like when they have floral arrangements, balloons, they leave them, and they're like, you know, this is for you to take to the cemetery, things like that. So everybody in the city pretty much knows the reasoning behind the business itself. Just recently, I mean, if you book a big event center, you know, $3,000, $4,000, and something happens, you're not getting married, you're not getting the money back. I had a lady just a couple of weekends ago where they did, in a long time, way in advance, plan like a gender reveal, and unfortunately they lost the baby. They're fully refunded. It's just the type of business it is, and there's a meaning behind it. So, you know, I know that's kind of not relevant, but I just want to, you know, let you know that we're not the party. We're not that big event center party place with the late night and drinks. So it's a little bit different. And also, I do follow you. I know you're wanting to do the cycling thing in the city. I told Mr. Cannon, I want to be more involved where we do kind of like hold some city stuff there, because I don't have anywhere to cycle in Duncanville, so, yep.
Okay,
I mean,
before you leave, Mr. LeBlanc has a question.
Yes.
Well, I got 2 questions, and I guess maybe you or Mr. Cannon can answer. I'm going reverse order because you brought up the sign.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the sign being installed because I live at Duncanville, Cedar Ridge and Big Stone Gap.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the sign was there for about one day, definitely one day, but maybe 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Why did the sign go up without?
Because he had just installed it, I'm sorry.
What was the purpose of putting the sign up if we hadn't had?
Because they had just installed it, and.
But why? But why were we putting the sign up?
Like, why are we doing it now?
Yeah, why did you put it up, I don't know, why did you put it up that day and it stayed up for 2 days?
We put it up to assist people to be able to find my parking area. It says Emma Rose Rue,
See the attendant, yes.
parking available, see attendant. That's strictly to lead people to my parking area.
I mean, we
That's the reason
just,
I put the sign up. It goes up 2 hours before each event. It comes down after the event, and that's on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Very seldom on Thursday. But that's the reason for the sign. I was trying to assist. We've had people complain just to our north. I'd like to address your issue in a moment if I could, please. To my knowledge,
If I could
no one-
interrupt for just a second here.
Yes, sir.
Need you to state your name and your address,
I
and if you could move in
apologize.
front of the microphone, we
I
appreciate
was
it.
going to do that, then I forgot about it. My name is Roy Cannon, 225 County Road 3509, Edgewood, Texas, 75117. That's the reason I put the sign up, is to try to assist from anyone even getting on their property. Now, let me back up just a little bit. I built that building 42 years ago. I have never, to my knowledge, parked on anyone else's parking or had any of my tenants park on anyone else's parking and be towed. Now, that's just, I don't know where you're getting your information, but I would appreciate if you would reevaluate it, because that has not happened to me. I manage my parking. Parking is just like a business. You manage it correctly. Now, you stated that we couldn't switch parking. I worked it out. I've been doing this for years. We've never had a parking problem, ever.
Excuse me, Mr. Cannon? I still haven't gotten my question answered about the sign. Because the sign was there in the middle of the day, not doing hours that you say you're having these events.
Yeah.
And the sign was not up and down. The sign was there for 2 days consecutively.
he just got it put
Well,
in.
sir, we just installed it that first day.
Okay.
We just installed it.
And I
And the
can't,
reason for installing it was?
to show y'all that we're working on our, just so that we don't have anybody parking in different wrong areas, showing them that this is our parking lot. And he did it in time for our meeting today to kind of show you that's what we're trying to do all that we can. The camera, things like that. So, I even had mentioned in the last meeting that I'm willing to just cone all of the other areas out, but the neighbor didn't want that. And then I do have a picture where other people had something at a barber shop, kind of maybe 3 shopping centers down. They had a big back to school, he said it was a back to school haircut special, where it was just tons of people. And it even had valet parking.
Yeah.
And they coned that area out. I'm like, I told Mr. Cannon, that's what we're wanting to do, just to prevent anybody from parking in different areas. But she said I couldn't do that. So it just helps, like I said, it's not because there's no parking in our shopping center. It's just because people kind of get lost and go in that area. So I'm willing, we're just trying to do everything that we can, to kind of just help everybody kind of see where my place is, because I really don't, I think the big thing when we had to do the glass business signs, it's a little bit too expensive. So I haven't gotten that yet. All I have is a little sign on the window, so it kind of helps them find it.
Well, I just was a little concerned because driving up and down that street as frequently as I do, and my plan was to call the city to see if someone had requested a permit to put that sign there, but then the sign was taken down.
Yeah, I called and I spoke to Lynette, and she said as long as it doesn't say anything about towing or something like that, then the sign is good, and we let them know it's removable. But the day that he put it up, my husband wasn't available to come and take that down, because the way he did it kind of needs some...
Yeah, they're bolted onto
Yeah,
that fixture
yeah,
up
so
front.
right now it's down until we're ready to...
The reason it stayed up 2 days is we didn't have the tools to get it down the first day.
Yeah, I kind of had to wait on him, too.
And we took it down the second day.
The same tools to put it up wouldn't take it down?
No, he
Well,
was
he was gone, the sign man put it up.
Okay.
And
He kind of left it there
and he
for us
left.
to come review it.
What we have 4 bolts. It's real simple. It'll go up in 5 minutes and come down in 5 minutes. But you need a racket wrench and a 1/8 socket to get it up and down. It's real simple. That's the first time I looked at the sign, and I didn't have the tools with me to do it. But anyway, that's the reason that I put a sign up. When I go somewhere, I'm legally blind. My daughter takes me where I need to go, but I listen to it. I believe it's Siri, and she says, "You have arrived." Well, I'm looking around, and where have I arrived? I put the sign up to tell you that's where you're coming. There's parking right there. It's simply a temporary sign, as I explained. So that's the reason it's up.
Okay.
And it'll go up 2 hours before an event, assuming you approve us, and it'll come down immediately after the event. And it will be that way each time. That's the reason for the sign.
Okay.
Now, does that satisfy the sign?
Yes.
Okay. As I said, I've been there 42 years. I never had a parking problem, never.
Okay. The second question I had was regards to if, and I think you tried to allude to it, but I didn't get a clear understanding. If your certificate of occupancy says for office only, why were you holding events?
I brought a copy of it.
Let me, if I could, may I approach?
Sure.
We have here three tags. I'd like you to look at the dates on one of them. Let me back up.
Just for the
Those were-
record, in the
those were
minutes,
issued
just
to,
Mr. Cannon, just a second. Mr. Cannon.
Yes.
Just a second. Just for the minutes, Mr. Cannon has presented 3 green cards to Councilmember LeBlanc.
And I do have a copy of my CO,
Let me
also
have
the
a
way it was
copy of the
worded.
CO also, please. Just a copy of the CO?
Yeah, where it says events by appointment.
Sorry. There's a copy of our CO. It says events by appointment only, but we were confused. We thought we had a CO. And it says in parentheses, we did not put that there, event didn't put it there. And they issued the CO. They give us 3 green tags, and they give us a CO. And I love the city. I'm not complaining, with all due respect. It says for office only. Well, I'm not an expert at what the city does. She's not an expert at what the city does. But if you flip that coin over, it says also that she's allowed to have events by appointment only. We just assume that that's okay.
Well,
And no one, to my knowledge, advises otherwise. It was approximately 6 months. She started her, to answer your question, she started her operation, and 6 months later, it was brought to our attention that we did not have a CO, a proper CO. And I had a meeting with the city at that time, and that's the first that we knew about it. So we've gone from there. I thought we had a CO. I argued with the city a little bit. I said, "What do you mean we don't have a CO? We got green tags, we got a CO." No, you don't. So that's where we're at. We didn't do anything intentionally to break city rules and regulations. We thought we were doing the right things. And then we found out, well, you've got to have a special use permit. So here we are. We applied for a special use permit.
All right, Mr. Cannon, I need you to get back on the microphone, please.
I'm sorry, I should have done that earlier, pardon me.
Well, from what I'm reading, and I'm going to read it aloud in parentheses, as you said, it says decor, display, and storage for events by appointment.
Yes, sir. They bring things in a couple of hours earlier, and get ready for their events and store it in there.
No,
Am I
it's-
correct?
it's-
Maybe you can explain that better than I can.
I mean,
That's
I pretty much did the events by appointment. I mean, that's what it
But
says on my window, events by appointment.
It says decor, display, and storage for events by appointment.
Yes, sir. I take that to
I
mean
don't-
that we,
You take that to mean you can have events?
yes, I do.
Okay.
Well, I did that for the first 6 months, and then all of a sudden, we were informed that we didn't have a CO. And so we've,
And another reason why, and as I said, I live there in that area, and on several occasions, I had to call, and I don't see him here, the assistant city manager, because the people having the events had portable barrels out front barbecuing, and I know this because I actually pulled up in the parking lot and asked what was going on.
That was actually me.
Okay, well, there were barrels out front where they were barbecuing or cooking some kind of meat, and this was not on one occasion, there was multiple occasions, and I called to contact our assistant city manager because I thought that was a code violation. And I don't know if it was on the weekend, so I'm sure someone,
Yeah.
you said someone.
Yeah, someone called me, so I've got a copy of my contract where we worded it. There's absolutely nothing to be done in the parking lot, so we stress it now. I did it one time just because we had just opened and it was Super Bowl, so I did it. And she called me and I was like, okay, it was me. So it was just kind of my husband cooking for our grand opening. So that's in my contract, though. It says nothing to be done in the parking lot.
Okay, Ms. Jameson? Oh, never, okay.
I mean, I understand, like how we were operating, things like that, but it was a error part on the CO, but it actually gave us a year to learn a lot of things, like with the rules and things like that, the grill, we changed our contract, just how to, monitor your parking lot. It kind of, I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of just helped me as a business person to kind of keep growing and knowing how to operate my business, since it is my first time.
Understand, okay, thank you.
if someone has said that I need additional parking from someone else and I am infringing on their parking, that's not so. It never has been so. And whoever said that, I'd like to talk to them face to face.
Mr. Cannon, those kinds of comments are not appropriate to challenge
I apologize.
information like that. Thank you very much.
So that's basically where we're at. I was at this event that you're talking about was on a Saturday. The barbershop had an event there, and I found out that they were going to have it, so I decided I better come in. I'm an hour and a half away. And so I was there all day from 2 o'clock on that day. And the barbershop has a, and I'm not complaining in any way, they have an event going on and they have a valet parking facility set up. I'm sitting in my car and I notice a person parking in my parking lot, and she walks past where I thought she was going, all around my building and up to the barbershop. I told my daughter, I said, I can't see real well. I said, get out and help me make sure of where she goes. Well, she went to the barbershop. Parked in my center, but she went to the barbershop. I sat there a little bit, same thing happened again. Another person came and walked around. So I have two people parking in my parking lot that are at the barbershop. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. People have been parking in my parking lot, thousands of them over the years. I don't say that much about it. Doesn't bother me. I got in my car. I drove up to the valet. I said, are you running out of room up here? And he says, yes, Mr. Cannon, we are. He called me by name. And I said, well, I said, I'm not too crowded today. If you would like, I said, 2 people have already parked on my space. He said, oh, I'm terribly sorry. I'll find out who they are and have them move immediately. And I said, no, no, no. I'm not complaining about that. Leave them alone.
Okay, Mr. Cannon, I'm going to interrupt because the issue of parking, the historical issue of parking has pretty well been explained to us today. The issue of apparent or inadvertent violation of the CO has also been explained to us. We understand that completely. So I'm not sure that we need any more elaboration on that
Well, I had
particular
one
aspect
point I
of it.
wanted to make, if I could, please. I told them, I said, I have space available. If you need more space, I could spare 10 spaces at the rear of my building. I said, I'll show you where it's at. And he said, I'm familiar with your building. I know where it's at, and thank you very much. So that's the way people should do in Duncanville, but that's unfortunately not the way some people do. I've done that all my life. No one can say anything bad about me and be telling the truth. And it offends me quite a bit, and I know I'm talking too much. If you have any further questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. But I have never in all my life infringed on anyone's parking, and I've always had ample parking because I manage it correctly.
Okay, Mr. Cooks.
Thank you very much for having your business in Duncanville. I would just like to share with you, as I was hoping to share with any developers that's coming to Duncanville, let me ask if you would to look at our comprehensive plan, because from time to time we know you'll be having some openings. And so I'd also like to share with you to go ahead and get one of those from our city planner, where you'll know also what the what we'd like to see in Duncanville as it grows. If you grab one of our comprehensive plan, we really appreciate it as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? Once again, please state your name and address. Thank you.
My name is Tammy Abney, 903 Westminster Lane in Duncanville. And to the Duncanville City Council, my name is Tammy Abney, and I am the business and property owner at 926 South Cedar Ridge. I'm here today to speak against a proposed SUP to be issued at 928 South Cedar Ridge. It's a neighboring property of ours for an event hall.
Can I interrupt just for a minute? Chastity, where is this one at? Could you point it out to us, please?
It is.
She's 926?
It's labeled as 922 because this is from DCAD's property address, but it is the adjacent property immediately to the north.
Property.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And being adjacent, meaning sharing the same
Sharing a property line.
No.
They just share a property line.
No.
They do not
Okay.
share parking.
Just want to get clarification. Thank you. Okay. Continue, please.
Yes, I apologize. We are on DCAD listed at 922, but it's 922/926 South Cedar Ridge. We are directly north of the property. We do not share a driveway. We do not share parking space with the subject property. However, we have been subjected to being overflow by default for this property for the past year. The applicant is requesting that the city grant an SUP to operate an event center in an already densely populated strip shopping center, making parking a serious issue. Already operating at this location is a barber shop, a beauty school, Zumba studio, and 2 retail locations. The addition of an event hall in an already crowded space drastically infringes on my rights as a space and property owner. As a refresher, I remind you that just last year, in October of 2017, the city granted an SUP for this same property to allow operation of a beauty school at the location. The inadequacy of parking was discussed at that time. The current SUP applicant falsely represented themselves as an office space, requiring only 5 parking spaces at the time. The current requested SUP requires an additional 17 spaces in order to meet the requirements at this location. City Planner Chastity Allen presented in her August 13 informational packet to the P&Z Commission, and she stated today that there does not appear to be an opportunity to add any parking on site. Additionally, even with reconfiguration, it's unlikely to yield an additional 17 spaces needed to accommodate the request. I would also like to add that the current SUP applicant was issued a citation by the city in the March of 2018 and directed to apply for an SUP for appropriate business operation. Remember, they falsely represented in their initial CO to be in office. The applicant continues to operate the event hall despite being instructed to cease operations outside the city ordinance. An application for an SUP was submitted 4 months later in July 2018, despite not having approval from the city to operate. The Facebook page clearly illustrates that the event hall continues to operate, having large events such as large weddings, funeral repasses, night BYOB dance parties weekly without any accountability. At the conclusion of these events, we're left to pick up trash and make needed repairs as a responsible property owner in our area. As recently as August 11, 2018, there was a party at the event hall in which our property was used as an overflow. Just last week, the beauty school students were parked at our property due to lack of space at 928 South Cedar Ridge. Again, I'm speaking against the proposed SUP for an event hall at 928 South Cedar Ridge. We have to consider restricting businesses coming to Duncanville under the guise of operating as an event hall in order to bypass dance hall and TABC requirements. You have any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Abney?
Ms. Abney, have the owners ever came to you asking to park in your facilities and while your business was closed? Have they ever had any conversation with you at all?
No.
No agreements? No
No,
written agreements?
there's no parking agreement, no request for that, and.
Okay, all right, thank you. Had they came to you, would you have granted it?
It could be possible, but the sense of entitlement, when you're told there's no law that says they can't park on your property, my signs are gone that were there that said no parking. You know, once that happens, that infringement, it's somewhat hard to get past. There was a car towed from our property. I think that it was a tenant at maybe the beauty shop, and we were sued. I had to go to court because the individual that was that was towed sued us because they're for the cost of getting their car out. Luckily, Stretch Rudeau used to go down Cedar Ridge every day to work, and he called us up first, and he said, and I was sitting at the back thinking, oh my God, let me just watch how this works so I can understand. And he called us up first, so I had no opportunity to observe the other cases. And he said, I have one question. And he pointed to the plaintiff at the time, which is the person that was towed. And he said, what part of no parking did you not see? He said, I go by that way every day. And
Stretch Rudeau being the JP?
He was JP court at the time. And so we had to appear in civil court because we were sued because that car was towed. And our signs are gone that were there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Please give us your name and address again, please.
Hi, my name is Misty Bain, and my address is 102 Walnut Street, Duncanville, 75116. I was curious as to why there was not any more thought put into like actually finding a more suitable space for this person. it just seems like they're gonna have to jump through a lot of hoops with trying to accommodate parking, and the adjacent businesses aren't very happy about it, so I was just wondering why they don't find a more suitable space for their business. And also, y'all talked about with this, I guess the staggered parking, I guess you're referring to the staggered times, but are all of the businesses in there, or are there any vacancies at all? Do we know?
Not to our understanding.
Okay, so there's no more plans to add any more businesses to that center?
That's not a question that we can answer. That's to the owner.
Okay. Is there any concerns for parking? And then I didn't see any fire, I was looking at aerial view, I didn't see where there was striping for fire lanes. Is there any concerns for that?
Mr. Contreras, can you answer that question? Come to the mic, please.
I know from talking to the fire marshal that that property is close enough to the street that the fire trucks wouldn't enter that parking lot. They would fight the fire from the street.
So in answer to the question, a fire lane is not required.
Right.
And I was also curious, was this a previous business, or did it just move to Duncanville? Were they already in business before and they moved here? Or are they new?
The certificate of occupancy is dated when?
September 16th, September 6th of 17.
Well, I mean, were they in a
6th.
different city before they moved to Duncanville as a business? Okay, I was just curious if they were already operating like an event facility, and like if they had any kind of record or history for how that place was and how they were doing business there before they moved here, if that was possible.
Those types of questions in terms of the qualifications of operating a business are not under the purview of the council.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you. Before we go on, I just want to make mention that Councilman Schwartz has recused himself from this item. That's why he is not present. I wanted to go on the record for that. Anyone else wish to speak?
I'll say it one more time. She came to the beauty school. I'm talking, well, I can't even think of her name now, I'm sorry. And accused them of parking on her parking. It was one truck. She just now sat up here and implied that like there was 10 trucks. It was found out.
Point of order.
Mr. Cannon, your contention in terms of arguing with information that's been presented, I think is pretty well understood and well taken. The fact is that Ms. Abney was sued as a result of some action that was taken. We understand that. There's no need for you to defend that action or to explain it to us any further.
What I'm trying to tell you is it wasn't me.
We understand that it wasn't not you, it was someone else. There's nobody saying that it was your issue, sir.
She did.
Does anyone else wish to address the council? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close.
We have a motion to close.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor of closing the public hearing on this particular item, please vote. The item is unanimously passed. We have closed the public hearing. Closing the public hearing now opens the floor to the council to discuss any issues that we may have. Ms. Thomas.
Yes, I'd like to ask the city manager if he knows that any events were held after they realized that their CO did not encompass the event center.
Yes, ma'am. There were events held after they were noticed that they were in violation of their CO.
Ms. Benson, there appears to be, let made some notes while you were speaking. There appears to be some apparent conflict between ordinance requirement and future use of the building itself to include the use of the parking spaces. You have in your presentation, there was one, if you could rewind it back, there was one sentence that was pretty categorical. There it is, right there. The property would not meet the parking requirement of the zoning ordinance, and the parking need based on the tenants may exceed the parking that is available. I'm taking that as a pretty categorical statement from your office that we, the council, need to take pretty seriously. Am I correct in that?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion by the council?
Yes. Mr. Mayor, you know, it's very easy to tell a business a no in a case when they're coming to us. I would like to just continue to stress to the staff and the city manager to make sure that our no's is an educational no, that we tell business owners or developers, here's what we're looking for as well, and through our comprehensive plan. So I'll continue to say that for future developers as well as our current developers. Maybe you're not participating and have not had opportunity to review our comprehensive plan. I'll again ask our current business owners and possible developers to look at that plan, and for the city, for us as a city, to continue to hand that plan to people as they come in to ask about what we're looking for in Duncanville. The second part is I think we also have opened up ourselves to allow this to happen to us by granting so many different SUPs ourselves. And so we really brought some of this on ourselves as a city or as a council, whether it's this council or council before us. So I think in the future, whether we're working with planning and zoning, whether we're working as a group, our SUPs need to be very limited when we're making those exceptions to SUPs to hopefully deter some of this request that we're coming up with tonight. So those are the things I really want to make sure that I really want to bring up to our educational piece for business owners. Is that yes, it's easy to say no, but we want you to say what we will say yes to, and we will say yes to what the city and what the council has decided in the future for our comprehensive plan. So again, I'll ask you to look at that as developers and business owners as well.
Thank you. Mr. Lamont.
Well, to piggyback on what Councilman Cook just said about what the plans are and the comprehensive plan, I would like to make a motion to deny the special use permit to allow a party event facility on the portion of Duncanville Industrial District 6th installment, Block G, approximately 0.9822 acres, more commonly known as 928 South Cedar Ridge, Suite A, Duncanville, Texas.
We have a motion to deny the SUP, which is item 5B on the agenda. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and we have a second. Please vote. We have unanimously voted to deny the SUP for the Public Event Center on Block G, approximately 0.9822 acres, more commonly known as 928 South Cedar Ridge, Suite A, Duncanville, Texas. Thank you. Moving on to item 5C, hold a second public hearing and deliberate on the proposed tax rate. Mr. Summerlin.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Moving right into our discussion for the public hearing, the effective and rollback tax rates, wanted to present those. The effective rate, as I've mentioned before, is the rate that, if applied to the new valuations, would yield the same amount of tax revenue as in the previous year. And of course, that moves up or down with taxable valuations. And then the rollback rate is a calculated rate That's the same amount of operations and maintenance revenue as in the previous year, plus an additional 8%. So if we compare our effective and rollback rate, our proposed rate is 0.748448 per 100 in valuation. The effective rate is 0.689904 per 100 valuation, and the rollback rate is 0.748940 per 100 valuation. So some of the important dates: the council will vote on the tax rate at the regular city council meeting on September the 18th, 2018. It starts at 7 p.m. in the council chambers here at 203 East Woodland Road. City Charter Section 405 states that the council shall at least 10 days prior to the beginning of the next fiscal year adopt the budget by a favorable majority of all the members of the council, and that date would be Thursday, September the 20th. So some of the budget highlights: we are proposing a tax rate reduction of 1 penny. That reduces the ad valorem tax rate from 0.758447 to 0.748447. We have an increase of $1 million over historical levels of funding in our street department to address the street maintenance issues. We have a compensation adjustment included of 3% and a pay range adjustment of 5% for fire and police. We have a reduction of $721,000 in fleet replacement contributions from all the different funds combined. We have the ability to fund $2.6 million in one-time projects from excess fund revenues that are accumulated from prior years and from the predicted 2019 excess fund reserves. This includes $1.6 million that's allocated for replacement of aged leaking roofs at several of our city facilities. There's no proposed increases in this budget for water, sewer, or garbage collection rates for 2019. And there's funding of $6.2 million in capital improvement projects related to water, wastewater line replacements. They're also part of the utility fund. Looking at the total general fund revenue by sources, you can see that property tax makes up a little over 50%, sales tax a little over 25%, and then the other sources of revenue. When we look at our general fund revenue sources, you can see that the increases and decreases that I have calculated here. Some of the highlights in terms of the major things is $1.4 million increase in property taxes due to the valuations going up. That's with the lower tax rate. And of course, we decreased revenues by $1.3 million because we had a street maintenance fee that we had proposed, and the council elected not to enforce that or pass that street maintenance fee, and that would have essentially gone to fund the street maintenance under the proposed street maintenance program. And then we did not have $1.4 million that we've transferred from debt service in previous years to fund one-time projects. And then we had a decrease of $1 million in from one-time projects that we had set aside in the one-time project fund for street maintenance. If we look at our certified taxable property value in millions, you can see how we performed throughout the years, basically hitting the housing decline here in the 2012 era and then coming back up on the years since. If we look at our total tax rate breakdown, essentially 52% of your total tax bill goes to the Duncanville Independent School District, and about a little over a quarter of that comes to the city of Duncanville. The rest goes to the county. You look at that graphically, again, 52% to the school and 25% to the city. If we look at our average taxable single-family resident values, then you can see that again mirrors this kind of the same information. We bottomed out here in 2013 with the lowest values, and then we've been steadily increasing since then in terms of property valuations. This is interesting. You've seen this chart before. This basically is our city-only tax paid for each year from 2008 coming down through the 2012 and 13 periods where we were at our lowest points. And then that tax on the single-family value residents going up. And so what we did is we took and applied the Consumer Price Index to account for inflation, used base year of 2008, and we charted out where, based on that beginning year of 2008, where would we, should we have been, is a better way of putting it, for each of those years. So you can see that in these lean years, when housing values were going down, we were considerably under where we needed to be in terms of just keeping up with inflation. And excuse me. And then when we got to 2016, we closed that gap with the valuations going up. We closed that gap significantly. And then in 2017, we're just slightly, the valuations were just slightly above where we should be with inflation adjusted. We didn't calculate 2018 yet because we haven't completed the year, and we don't know what the Consumer Price Index values will be for the entire average, or for the entire year, excuse me. So the average single-family residence pays $1,017 in total City of Duncanville taxes in 2018. So what do citizens get for $279 a day, or about $83.70 a month? You get police and fire protection 24/7, street sidewalks, traffic signals. You get 17 parks, 13 playgrounds, 244 acres of parkland, a recreation center, a senior center, a public library, code enforcement, building health inspections, and all this for about what you pay for your monthly cable bill or your cell phone plan. So a penny on the tax rate is about $230,000. And if you break that down and see how that is impacted from the standpoint of annual monthly, $13.59 on an annual basis, $1.13 on a monthly impact, and about 4 cents a day on a daily impact. This is how we compare to other cities around us with the penny reduction. I do not know or have final numbers on where the other cities are going to go with their tax rate, so there may be changes that I'm not privy to at this point. But you can see Duncanville essentially is in the middle, with Dallas, Lancaster above, DeSoto and Cedar Hill below. Another interesting chart, you've seen something similar to this on a per capita basis, but this essentially is all the Dallas County cities comparison with the residential tax levy per capita versus the commercial and business personal property tax levy per capita. And I'll make note that these Dallas County cities are cities that are wholly within Dallas County, because we didn't have information. Some cities share other counties, and so we didn't have that data because we're only privy to getting Dallas County data. So we ferreted out those that are wholly within Dallas County. And so you can see that something like University Park, they have a very high residential tax levy per capita and very small amount of commercial property, but they also have extremely high dollar valuations for their city. And then if you look at someone like Cedar Hill and DeSoto, you see that, again, their residential is quite a bit higher than their commercial business personal property. Dallas, on the other hand, has got quite a bit more commercial taxable property. Lancaster, just about almost the same. And then Duncanville, you know, we're primarily residential. There's not that much commercial, so we have to, you know, make up that difference. You look at someone like Addison, of course, they're completely off the charts in terms of their commercial and business personal property versus their residential. Same with Farmers Branch and the same with Irving. And so this chart really demonstrates how much these other cities that have great commercial business personal property taxable value, how much that you know, helps them because all these cities essentially have to provide the same basic services that we do, of course on a little different volume than we do, but certainly the same basic things like fire and police protection. We look at the general fund expenditures by category. You can see that we're primarily salaries and benefits because it's a people organization. We do spend about 25% in services. These are things that range from purchasing our own utilities, such as water and gas, all the way up through business professional services that we don't have staff to do. We look at our general fund budget expenditures by service area. Again, you can see that the majority of our expenditures go for public safety. Fire and police make up over 48%, and then public works, parks and rec, etc. If you look at some of the changes in terms of expenditures, some of the large things that changed, we had a 9.8% decrease in public works, and that was primarily because we reduced street maintenance and our fleet contributions, and that was offset some by the increase in the compensation. We had a $1,375,000 decrease in our project fund from a debt service transfer because there was no transfer that was budgeted in 19, and then we had excess fund balance, so a $1.3 million increase in expenditures, and then a transfer to the excess fund reserves or one-time project that was the transfer that we had originally budgeted for the street maintenance, and we decided not to we elected not to levy that fee. And that's the end of the presentation.
Okay, in following how we've been proceeding tonight, this is a public hearing. So I think what we'll do now, we will open the public hearing, and any questions from council to Mr. Sumner we can do after the public hearing. So we open the public hearing at 9:13 p.m. Anyone wishing to address the council, please step forward. And please state your name and your address.
Wesley Jameson, 1214 Lady Lane. I just left a meeting of the board that I'm on, and one of the things that we just voted for was to increase the over 65 and disabled exemption to the maximum that we could get, which was $75,000. I believe Duncanville's is about $30,000. It's my understanding that right now it may be too late to do anything with a homestead exemption here in Duncanville because of timing, because perhaps that information was not out in the public domain, very blatantly put forward so that people could voice their opinions about that. I would implore you to please start that process now to look at a homestead exemption for the city of Duncanville. All other taxing entities in Dallas County have the highest rate of over 65 and disabled exemption on your tax bill except Duncanville. All other taxing entities that we are subject to here who live in Duncanville have a homestead exemption, not Duncanville. I appreciate Richard's, or Mr. Summerlin's explanation. I didn't realize it was going to be a, a budget discussion. I thought it was a tax rate one. But I think that the tax rate needs to be at least dealt with in the areas that it can be dealt with. Moving a penny does relatively little to help, particularly the people on a fixed income, which would be your Social Security recipients and those folks who are retired and over 65. So I implore the City Council to please take a look at that. It's not too late. It may be too late for the homestead exemption this year. Start now. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council? Oh, Mr. Darrell Mangum. And he lives at 1112 Spring Lake Drive. I'll take it off your card. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, I come to you this evening also reflecting on the continual tax burden that keeps encroaching on the people in our community. I protest annually to DCAD. If it wasn't for that, I'd be in real trouble. This last year for my increase, and considering it's a composite, I realize that, city, county, and school district, my tax burden has gone up 10.5%. Had not my evaluation been capped, I would have had a 24% increase in my taxes. You can verify this on DCAD. That's not a problem. I'm just afraid that property taxes have almost seemed to have a carte blanche attitude. So I would encourage you at every point to try to use as much fiscal restraint as we can, or people won't be able to afford living in our community. The fundamentals are probably never going to change. We're always going to have the burden on our homeowners. But unless that reverses itself, that's just going to be a gap that keeps getting wider and wider. So I just urge you to err on the side of fiscal conservatism and think of your citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mangum. Please state your name and address for us again, please.
My name is Misty Bain, and my address is 102 Walnut Street. I live in a similar neighborhood to the one that the lady from District 2 lives in, and there's a great deal of older people that live there. And I know that online that people talk about like a homestead exemption, or they talk about tax rate, and a lot of people were saying, well, maybe people should buy something that's more affordable for them. And I got to thinking about it, and I was thinking, a lot of these people that moved into these neighborhoods when they first bought their homes, because they're significantly older, their homes were like $35,000. So when they did buy it, they could afford it. But a lot of these homes have gone up to like $140,000, $150,000. And for a person who's older on a fixed income, they can no longer afford their own home. So I do agree with some of the recommendations from the other people about increasing the amount for the over 65. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing, okay. Please state your name and address again for us, please.
My name is Maria Gonzalez. I live at 1315 Meadow Green here in Duncanville. I actually have had my insurance, or my property taxes increased to 24%. I live here in Green Hills, and I came from the Winnetka Heights area, and I bought here. I put all of my winnings or profits from living in Winnetka Heights to living here in Duncanville. So there's no other way for me right now. So I have to come to you all to ask y'all to do something. I don't know what it is that you all have to do. I don't know. I mean, just looking at 52% of my almost $10,000 in taxes, just for me, in our house, is going to Duncanville ISD. I don't know if any of you have children there. I have relocated my children back to Duncanville schools, and I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed with the money that goes to them. 25% is going over to our city, and although you put it really well, $2.79 per day sounds like a deal. We're getting all these amenities, but when you compare it to the other cities, just on that little graph that he had, from University Park to Irving, all of those cities offer a homestead exemption, except us. And so our property taxes or property values keep increasing, our property taxes keep increasing because there's no credit, there's no relief. And I know that a lot of those cities, with the exception of University Park, all of the cities have some higher graphs of commercial retail that is helping in the taxes. And I do applaud you and I commend you for moving in the right direction, I think, with the businesses that we're bringing in, but we need more. I don't know, again, this is all just, I don't know how a council runs. I don't know how a city runs. So I'm not coming to you with any of that background. I'm coming to you just as a citizen of Duncanville. I have a long way to go to 65. So I need the relief now before we get to a point where I am needing to find something else to do. And I plan on growing roots here. I want to stay here. I want to be part of a change for Duncanville. And I want to be a part of this change that's happening. So that was all I had today.
Thank you.
Comment to her.
Oh, excuse me.
Marie.
Mr. Cooks.
Marie, I want to personally applaud you for coming and talking to the council. I know that's not a very easy thing to do, and so thank you very much for your participation in your voting. We do hear you.
Thank you.
And as you continue to learn more about how the city operates, we'll encourage you to learn more about it as well. But thank you for your support and your presence in Duncanville, and keep hearing us, and we do hear you.
Absolutely. I thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wish to address the council? Seeing none. Please state your name and address for us again, please.
My name is Amelia Moore. I live at 435 Round Top here in Duncanville. And the point I was trying to make earlier, and public speaking is not my thing, I was nervous, is that we pay very high school taxes, and our schools have gone down really bad. And throwing more money at the schools, I know you guys are not the school board, but maybe you could use the funds that the school is getting to make a difference in the way the schools are handled, bring them back up to the standards. They used to be, I think it was 8th in the nation. Now they're so bad, the letter I gave her puts our schools, our high school, in danger of being shut down. So we need to somehow bring our schools back up to standards. Also, I would like to say that as far as our first responders go, I think Duncanville probably has some of the best first responders of all the cities around. They saved my husband's life on August 17th of this year, the fire department did. And I think we need to do whatever we can to show them how much we appreciate them. And I also, now that I'm retired, my favorite sport is shopping, and I would love to spend money in Duncanville. I would love to support my city, but there is so little here. I go to Cedar Hill, Grand Prairie, Dallas, and if you guys could bring in businesses, I would love to be able to support my city the way I support Cedar Hill or the way I support Dallas. I mean, just, you guys have got to find a way to bring in more businesses. We would do more if we had, I'm not going to go to Ma and Pa's Moldy Mercantile. I will go to name brand stores if you guys can bring them in.
Ms. Moore, I would
Yes.
thank you for your input and your comments. The Economic Development Director for the city, Jessica James, is more than willing to sit down and speak with you and make an appointment with her, and she could very eloquently and articulately discuss with you the efforts that she is making, and in concert with the entire city, to bring more commercial businesses to our city. I'm sure she would be happy to explain those to you, and she'd be much more adept at it than we individually or aggregately as a council could do. And I really would encourage you to make an appointment with her and have that discussion. I think your inputs to her would be valuable as well.
Well, the main thing is, if just find me a place to shop and I will gladly shop theirs, but.
Mayor, before Ms. Moore leaves. Ms. Moore, or should I say Ms. Shopping Queen, thank you very much for your comments. I'll share with you again, I think working together as a city, we can make those things happen. I echo what the mayor just said about visiting with our economic development director. But let me just really go on record for you, because as you mentioned about a school district, and I know we hear things, we're not the school district, we're the city council, but I will share with you, I mean, I've been meeting with our administrations and as well as school teachers as well. I will go on record to say that I think our school district is going in the right direction. I think if we sit down and talk with the superintendent, the administrators as well, you will find out that they are headed in the right direction. They may have taken a slump. We know that it takes the school district, it takes our city to bring what you're asking for as economic development. Those two things work hand in hand, but I will share with you again that as you're approaching us today, or keep approaching the school board as well, but I do want to tell you that I think our school board and our children and our students is going in the right direction at this point.
Well, while they're headed in the direction, they're losing students along the way. And
Well, I'm not sure if you know, I was just speaking with the superintendent the other day. Their enrollment is actually up from previous years. And so it's growing. And I'm like you, 52% is a very large amount that we have to, our taxes go to pay for it. So our interest in that is very high. And I echo that as well to you as well. But it is the, second or third largest district school in the country. So I will tell you that, is it second?
But size.
The high school is.
Yeah,
Thank you, I'm
but the
sorry, I
size.
stand corrected. The high school, the third
All right,
highest, but at
I'm
the
going to
same time-
interrupt. You know, it's the
Size
issue
is-
of the independent, Duncanville Independent School District has been well communicated by you and Mr. Cooks, and we would encourage you to have that meeting with Superintendent Smith and the school board and whatever opportunity you have. We are in discussions with the staff. So we share your concerns, and I would go along with what Mr. Cooks is saying. Dr. Smith is aggressively doing a lot of good for the schools, and it's gonna take time. As it took time to degrade, it's gonna take time to upgrade as well, unfortunately. It's a tough road that he has.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll conclude with my comments that I was making to you, yes, to echo is, go ahead and have that conversation as well with our school administration.
But
Thank
instead of looking at the size of the school, look at what they're accomplishing, how they're preparing our children. That's my concern.
Oh, I agree, and that's why I encourage you to talk with them. Hopefully you'll see a difference.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment. Amelia has had Boy Scout troops for how many years? Many. So that's how she keeps in touch with them. In fact, she used to bring all her troops here to council meetings. They loved it. Didn't they? Or they got badges. But that's how she keeps up with the school. She's
Anyone else?
Boy Scout troops.
I also had a child that went through the school system here.
Okay, please come forward. And please state your name and address.
Hello, I'm Deborah Meyer, and I live at 622 Dawson Drive. This is my second home. Actually, my first home of two homes in Duncanville. And I've been a resident of Duncanville for 40 years. And I please beg of you, Mr. Gordon, and the rest of the City Council to please get this homestead exemption done. I have put 3 children in the school district. I just can't echo the kind of money that we're paying in our taxes. I've been employed with one of the biggest employers where you retired from. Been there for 28 years with the Army Air Force Exchange Service. And when I retire, I'm looking at $3,000 right now in taxes on a $26,000 home when I was 20 years old. I bought straight out of high school at MacArthur in Irving. And so I'm looking at, what kind of money am I going to be able to live on? And my taxes are going up. My youngest son, who graduated in 2006, reminds me that he had a teacher run out of that Duncanville High School crying because she could not get her class under control. It's a good school. The teachers are paid the lowest in the district, all of Dallas County. They are paid so low. We've lost so many good teachers, and y'all really need to give us some kind of incentive to stay here. Otherwise, I'm packing my bags, putting the property up for rent. I used to live at 202 Willowbrook, one of the biggest pieces of property in Duncanville. And I just ask that y'all really get this on the books and get us some kind of incentive to stay here.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Got a question?
No, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
We have a motion to close. Is there a second? We have a second. Please vote on closing the public hearing on our tax rate. The motion to close the public hearing on our second public hearing on the tax rate is unanimously approved. This hearing is now closed. Now the discussion of the tax rate by council is now open. Ms. James.
Yes, I would like to speak to Richard. What do we need to do? I understand we can't get the homestead exemption for 2018, but for the year 2019, what do we need to do?
In order to do it properly so that it would be reflected on the valuation statements, I believe the deadline is in March of 2019. The homestead exemption would have to be passed and declared to the Dallas County Tax Office as well as the Dallas County Appraisal District. The absolute drop dead deadline is July the 1st, according to the state laws.
So we would need to pass a homestead exemption in March of 2019 and get it to the state by July 1st?
No, not to the state. It would go to the appraisal district. That would just be in order so that when the appraisals go out, the initial appraisal information goes out, that homestead exemption would be already taken into account on people's assessed values and their estimated tax. You could do it later, but it wouldn't be reflected.
Right, well, no, we need to, we keep slipping and sliding and not doing it. So we need to pass the homestead exemption by March, probably. Is that correct?
If you want it reflected on their statements. If you did it later, it would still, before July 1st, it would still be in effect for the 2019 taxes, but it just wouldn't be reflected initially when they get their property valuations.
Okay, well, we want to do it correctly. We want to get her done. So, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I thought that it could go in with this budget, and it could not for 2018. But for 2019, I want to get it done. And I know that I have people on the council who agree with me, and they want, you can see. And so we need to get this done. So please give us a clearly defined dates and times to get that done. And I would ask that we do it sooner rather than later, so that that would come to fruition. So will you please help us get this done? I asked for the amounts on posing different, like 25,000, 35,000, 45,000 for the homestead exemption, and Mr. Summerlin provided that information. So we just have to make it coordinate with the amount of money that it would be taken out of funds to give a homestead exemption. So we'll get that done and start working on it then immediately. If it has to be done by, I think, March, we will get that done. And I encourage you, I see many people I know, and I encourage you to continue to show up and ask for it, because this has gone on too long, and it needs to be done. I agree totally with you.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc.
My question, you may be able to answer it, Mr. Sumlin, but it may be city manager or Ms. Allen. To do this, would we have to have an election? We wouldn't. It just would be a vote of the council to get it passed. And for the dates that Mr. Sumlin just said, if we do it in March, is there by March? So that means is there a date that we would need to have that vote, I guess, I'm assuming in February, January, or just sometime next year?
As probably as soon as Mr. Summerlin can put the data together and brief council, we could take it at that point, I would presume, Mr. Hogman.
The deadline is July 1st to have an exemption voted on by the council for it to be effective in that tax year. As Richard said, to have it done by March then makes it available on the estimated tax statements. You will recall the council. You will recall the council last year, or early this year, last year during the budget discussion, had discussion about raising the over 65 exemption, and we brought that to council after the first of the year. You passed that in March, and that was reflected then on this year's estimated property tax statements, and that was raising the over 65 tax exemption. And that put us equivalent to our surrounding cities level. So if you want, we can bring another one here in the next couple of months to you.
Thank you. Can do.
Yes, please, bring another one now.
Any other questions for Mr. Summerlin?
Yeah, thank you, Richard, for all you're doing to get this provided to the council. And by the way, we didn't mean to interrupt you. When you were showing what we get for our tax dollars, you said the cell phone bill and.
No, I was equating it to
I know
a
you were
cell
giving an
phone.
example. We didn't mean to interrupt you. We were just laughing like, my cell phone bill is not that low. So we didn't mean to interrupt you when you were giving your presentation. But would you just share real quick, why we could not perform it in this particular tax season? Was it just the timing? And maybe a city manager question as well. Was it the timing, or I just want the public to know why we were not able to perform it this year versus putting it on our schedule for next time?
Correct. The state mandates that any change in exemption has to be provided to the appraisal district no later than July the 1st. And so that would have been the deadline. We would have had to have provided and passed a homestead exemption by this July 1st for it to be effective for 2018.
Well, thank you, because now we've heard, oh, good.
When you receive your tax bills at the end of the year, they're based on this year's valuations, 2018 valuations. And that's your tax bill for this year. But our budget for 2019 is based on the estimated revenues for your tax bill you pay this year. That's why this budget is already set based on the valuations that were in place after July 1st and the exemptions in place. So to change the exemptions now would affect the 2020 budget because it would be the 2019 tax bills, if that makes sense.
Well, thank y'all for sharing it. Just wanted to make sure we said that again, because we've heard it more. This is not the first time we've heard it. I mean, I've heard it when I went to town hall meetings. Everybody's asking for homestead. I fully support it as well. So I'm looking forward as we get more information to move forward.
I would like to also note that there is a $25,000 mandated homestead exemption for school taxes used. That's mandated for all school districts. So there's a $25,000 homestead exemption that exists, and that's there now. But that only applies to school tax.
Okay. Ms. Thomas?
Yeah, I'd like to refer back to that slide that you showed with the inflation. I just want to note that during those years that we weren't keeping up with inflation, that the city didn't go in debt. We paid debt off, and we are out of debt, except for the field house, which really isn't ours, it's the Forbeys. But anyway, so I wanted the citizens to see that there was some, and not much deferred maintenance either. We have some leaky roofs, we're going to take care of that. We got a little bit of increase. If y'all notice, the roads are lots of roads are being redone around the city. If y'all remember back, I don't know, about 4 years ago, we had and maybe before that, a lot of pipes bursting in the underground because of the aged infrastructure. And the city got out ahead of that and started pipe bursting, the oak clay pipes, and putting in the plastic pipes all over the city. So even though it looks like that graph would have shown that we went downhill in Duncanville, my experience is that we held steady. We didn't go in debt to pay for anything. We paid as we went, and now we're starting to reap some benefits, and we can start putting that money back to a little bit of deferred maintenance on the streets, on the facilities, and I think it's the right time for a homestead because the valuations have gone up, and we need to get back to our citizens. But I do want to recognize the city employees who really took it when we went through that inflation. They were furloughed without pay. They had to pay more. A lot of benefits were taken away from them. They had to pay more for their health insurance. And so I just like to recognize them for that sacrifice that they gave to the city during that time.
Thank you. Okay, this particular item is not an approval nor a decision point tonight, so we can close this discussion and move on. It's acceptable to everyone. Moving on to item number 5D, public hearing and approval of an ordinance readopting, ratifying, republishing, and extending ordinance number 1385 as amended, codified as Chapter 12 of Code of Ordinances, Article 9, curfew hours for minors for a period of 3 years. Chief Brown.
Good afternoon again, Mayor and Council. In the interest of time, I'm going to move through this agenda item fairly quickly, so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to stop me. As you know, the City of Duncanville has a juvenile curfew ordinance. It's been in place since 1994. And per state law, staff is required to bring this item back before the council every 3 years if it's to be readopted. So I'm going to just provide you a very brief overview of the ordinance and give you some historical data on this particular violation. So really the purpose for this curfew ordinance, if you look at the last two bullet points. Essentially, what we hope to do is we hope to help.
Excuse me, Chief Brown. Would you please note that Councilmember Jameson and Councilmember Thomas have exited the room and are no longer a part of this discussion. Please, thank you. Excuse me, Chief.
What we hope to do is to keep our young people from being victims of crime, and what we also hope to do is just help reduce crimes committed by our juveniles. If you look at the hours that's impacted, Sunday through Thursday, the curfew begins at 11 p.m. and ends at 6 a.m. And then Friday and Saturday, you have, it begins at 12:01 a.m. and ends at 6 a.m. According to the Texas Penal Code, a minor is someone who is under the age of 17. And violations, it says a minor commits an offense if he or she remains in a public place or on the premises of an establishment within the city during these hours. So if we have someone who is under the age of 17 who is in a public place, that would be someone who could be cited. Additionally, a parent or a guardian could be cited if they knowingly permit a juvenile to be out during these hours. And then lastly, you have an owner or operator who could be cited as well if they knowingly allow a minor to remain upon their premises during these curfew hours. The penalty is a Class C misdemeanor, similar to a traffic violation. It's punishable by a fine up to $500. What are the enforcement options for our officers? Well, we could give the juvenile a warning. We could send them home. We could take them home and release them to a parent or guardian. We could also issue a citation, or we can take them into custody. Defenses to prosecution. Essentially, what this means is that these are the lawful reasons that a juvenile could be out during these hours. It says the minor was accompanied by a parent or guardian. They were running an errand, interstate travel. They're going to and from work. There's an emergency. They are next to their residence for a school or religious purpose. They're exercising their First Amendment right, or that juvenile is married, had been married, or the family courts have determined that they are adult. And if you look at the historical data, shortly after this ordinance was adopted in 1996, there were 159 citations written. And as you can see, that number has decreased substantially. To me, that means that this ordinance has worked and that we don't have those violations being committed anymore. Here are some of the other cities that have adopted this ordinance. You can see some of the best cities are included. Lancaster could also be included in this list. Plano could be included in this list. So essentially what it is just another tool for our police officers to use in the event we have a juvenile who we need to stop and investigate potential criminal offense. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, in accordance with what we've been doing tonight, this is a public hearing. So at this time, I'm going to open the floor to a public hearing at 9:48. So anyone wishing to address the council on this item, please step forward. Seeing as how no one is stepping forward during the public hearing, we're going to close the public hearing at 9:49. And that opens the item to council discussion.
Make the motion to close the public hearing.
Oh, that's right, sorry.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to close the public hearing. I'm getting tired. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please vote. Public hearing is unanimously closed. Any discussion on by council?
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion to approve and a motion and second. to approve the ordinance readopting, ratifying, republishing, and extending ordinance number 1385 as amended, codified as Chapter 12 of the Code of Ordinances, Article 9, curfew hours for minors for a period of 3 years. If you're in favor, please vote. Unanimously approved. Thank you. Item number 5E. Consider a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, approving a negotiated settlement between the Atmos City Steering Committee, ACSC, and Atmos Energy Corporation. Mid-text division regarding the company's 2018 rate review mechanism filings, declaring and existing rates to be unreasonable, adopting tariffs that reflect rate adjustments consistent with the negotiated settlement, finding the rates to be set by the attached settlement tariffs to be just and reasonable in public interest, and approving an attached exhibit establishing a benchmark for pensions and retirement medical benefits, approving an attached exhibit regarding amortization of regulatory liability, requiring the company to reimburse ACSC's reasonable rate-making expenses, determining that this resolution was passed in accordance with the requirements of the Texas Open Meetings Act, adopting the savings clause, declaring an effective date, and requiring the delivery of this resolution to the company and the ACSC legal counsel. Mr. Summerlin.
Mayor and Council, thank you. Richard Summerlin, Finance Director. The initial amount that Atmos wanted in their rate increase equated to $42 million. And after working with the standards that were set forth in the Atmos City Steering Committees, we reduced that request to $27.4 million. And then after review of the consultant's report, the company offered to settle for a system-wide increase of $25.9 million. And then there was further negotiations by Jeffrey Gay, who is the attorney representing the Atmos City Steering Committee, and we got another $1 million decrease down to $24.9 million. That equates to about $1.06 on the average residential bill increase and about $3.20 per month for commercial, average commercial. Staff recommends approval of this negotiated settlement.
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a motion seconded, and I am not going to reread that all over again. So please vote. Unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Item 5F. Consider a resolution authorizing award of IFB number 18-096 Forest Hills Installment number 8 alley reconstruction and drainage improvements between Flamingo Way and Granada Drive, parens from North Alexander Avenue to South Cockrell Road, closed parens, to Mooney's Construction Incorporated through the city's competitive bid process with an estimated expenditure amount of $273,965. Mr. Ramey.
Yes, sir. Mayor and Council, I just wanted to take this opportunity real quick to introduce Mr. John Bunner, who was our civil engineer. He'll be the one presenting this particular contract. He is the project manager, not only for this alley project, but for the pipe bursting project to follow. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Bunner.
Thank you, Director Ramey. Mayor and Council, thank you for having me tonight. I'd like to present this project to you all for consideration. Following capstone number 2, goal number 2, and work plan item 2.5, consider the resolution to award this project to Muni's Construction in the amount of $273,965.00. The scope of work includes approximately 1,200 feet of existing alley with a full concreted alley. Part of the alley is currently asphalt, and also construct approximately 275 feet of 18-inch reinforced concrete storm sewer pipe to address some drainage issues along the alley. The total contract amount, as stated, was $273,965. That would be $224,415 from solid waste and $49,550 from the drainage fund. Again, the award is recommended to go to Muni's Construction. They are, again, a Dallas-based company, And we did use them for the FY15 water wastewater improvements project up in District 5, Lodema Lane and adjacent streets. Here is the location on a map, and there's some existing photos of the site. You can see the alley, part of the alley portion of the project there on the top left. On the bottom right, just after a storm event, you can see a resident's property being flooded, as well as the alley having ponding in it. I'd like to address Councilman Schwartz's question from earlier, if I may. The 100-year was not technically feasible. The low slope on the east end of the alley significantly reduced the capacity, even with the invert. And then the downstream system, which goes under Cockrell Hill, we would have to significantly upsize that system in order to handle the 100-year event. So from a standpoint of just being economically feasible for the project, it wasn't going to happen.
I guess my question is, do we have, in the master plan, do we have a opportunity to upgrade the pipe under Cockrell Hill to bring it up to
That
today's
is not,
standards?
off the cuff, that's not a master plan project that I'm aware of. Now, there are 102 in there.
Yeah, I mean, so far as we were looking at the 5-year CIP, there is no plans to address any issues with drainage along Cockrell Hill. The next project that we have considered in terms of anything addressing drainage was the Peach Street project, which was one of the projects that we had nominated for consideration during the bond process. But, you know, due to other competing priorities, it's later in the 5-year, later out in our 5-year program, but that would be the first drainage project of any significance, I think, to capture stormwater.
Quick question.
Yes,
If I
sir.
recall in the documentation, we do one alley a year. Is that, do I recall that correctly?
If it's possible with the funding, we try to do one alley per year. It slowly turns into every other year because we do have limited funding from solid waste, and we're not as flexible with our drainage fund spending to actually use the full cost of the alley, just pulling that out of the drainage fund.
Okay, and I presume there's some assessment matrix that's used to determine which alley gets done and how quickly,
Yes, sir.
based on its damage or its conditions.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing there are no other questions, Chair will accept the motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve, and we have a second. This is a resolution authorizing award, excuse me, of IFB number 18096, Forest Hills installment number 8, alley reconstruction and drainage improvement between Flamingo Way and Granada Drive from north end of Stockport Road to Denise construction through the city's comprehensive bid process with an estimated expenditure amount of $273,895. Please vote. No, I'm not going to repeat that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, item 5G. Consider resolution authorizing award of IFB number 18097 for wastewater improvements, pipe bursting to Vortex Turnkey Solutions, LLC, through the city's competitive bid process with an estimated expenditure amount of $1,918,830. Mr. Ramey.
Yes, sir. Again, good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the applicable guidance for this particular project. Again, we're just executing the water wastewater capital improvement plan for FY18. Staff request, as you've already read, $1,913,830 to Vortex. What I do want to point out, I think you saw it in your staff reports, is you'll see 2 tables. One was the actual competitive bids that were let, which identified Vortex, but when we identified that their original bid or the original scope of work that we wanted bid came in under our budget. We then took the the bids unit prices and put them against a revised increased quantity, which got us to the 1.9, which is within the original budget that we had set. Again, just a little bit of scope of work. We have 6-inch and some older 8-inch pipe that we are replacing. This is all about 50-year-old pipe, a combination of clay and some cast iron. Again, one of the big things that we try to do with the pipe bursting is to upgrade all our wastewater lines, which prevents infiltration. The main reason why that's important is groundwater gets into our sewer lines, and then we pay to treat what is essentially rainwater. So the idea is to keep only wastewater in our wastewater lines. Again, Vortex is a Houston-based company. Again, they haven't worked in Duncanville before, but we checked their references. They have had positive references from the city of Amarillo, as well as from Langford Engineering, which was the owner's rep for the city of Deer Park. As you can see, there was a map that I handed out at the beginning of the meeting, which blows up this map. What I wanted to point out on this particular map was, you probably noticed this in stream concentration in this sewer basin. It's all tied to a sanitary sewer overflow that we had back in February of this year. And then just the area down here is tied to some previous work that we did back in 2016. And again, just as just a picture of that sanitary sewer overflow that we had. So this is the creek, and then you can just sort of see that it sort of went out, it's coming out of the manhole. So that was all the groundwater. And so again, what we're trying to do with this project is prevent this from happening. Subject to your questions.
And how long will it take to do all these streets, or all these pipes?
I would have to defer to John on the period of performance.
The contract, I believe I set at 180 calendar days.
180 calendar days for public.
That's fairly, that's fast.
I'm told that these guys work very quickly.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Ms. Thomas?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve, and we have a second. Please vote. The item is unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Item 5H, consider nominations for the election of places 11 through 14 of the Board of Trustees for the Texas Municipal League Intergovernmental Risk Pool.
Mayor and Council, this item is a ballot that was provided to us by the Texas Municipal League Intergovernmental Risk Pool. They are, this year are the elections for places 11 to 14. You do have the ballot of individuals who are running for those different places. There are some incumbents running, and then some places have no incumbents. Try to answer any questions that you might have.
My personal input, I read every page and I read every bio, and I have no clue for whom to vote because they are totally unknown people. Does anyone have any recommendations that knows any of these people, or can we just not submit a vote and that would go against us with TML if we didn't submit a ballot at all? Would they think we're not participants in TML if we didn't submit a ballot?
I don't think there's any requirement. This is not like a corporate type vote that requires a proxy or something to be submitted. So if we chose not to vote, I don't know that there's any consequences. I did contact TML today to ask if they had recommendations, and our representative said they were not allowed to make recommendations.
So are we voting as a council or individual?
I do have some recommendations, though.
I'm sorry, what?
Are we voting as a council or are we voting individually?
We vote as a council on one individual of places 11, 12, 13, and 14.
Okay.
Dennis and I have a
And
couple of
in
recommendations.
each ballot, each place, we were provided the bios of 3 individuals upon which to vote. Yeah.
Do you have any?
Ms. Thomas?
John, I think we vote, we don't,
Okay, I was going to recommend Byron Black for place 13, and for place 11, Randy Criswell. And those are the only 2 that I'm familiar with. And I guess those are the 2 incumbents that you suggested. Yeah.
Okay.
I also read on the bios. You have the same way you do it.
So what? I have no opposition to Councilmember Thomas's recommendations for those 2. And I guess we just don't vote on the rest. Is that acceptable to everybody?
Councilmember Schwartz has another recommendation.
Turn your mic on, please.
Excuse me. Randy Criswell for place 11.
Are we doing this just because they're the incumbent? Do we know them? You know them?
I don't know. I read the bios. And then I think you said Jana Traxler for place 12.
I'm just going to interject here. This is a crapshoot. You know, let's just forget this one, all right? Until TML, we're an active participant.
Well, I'd like to vote on that.
Okay. All in favor of 2 recommendations out of 4? First of all, is there a second? Make a motion, please.
Councilmember Schwartz had a 3rd recommendation, so it's actually 3 recommendations.
All right, so let's hear a motion.
I think that we need to hear about, because there's some of us that don't feel comfortable with voting for people we don't know. And so we need to hear, we need to have a vote on whether we want to vote on people we don't know.
Well, let them make a motion, and then we'll vote on the motion.
Well, we can make a motion not to vote. I make a motion that we don't vote on people we don't know.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second not to vote for representatives for the TML Intergovernmental Risk Pool. All in favor of the motion not to vote, please vote. Okay, motion failed. So, we now need another motion.
Vote. Somebody get on notice. It's not making any sense.
Mayor, I move that we nominate Randy Criswell for place 11, place 12, Jana Traxler, place 13, Byron Black.
What's what 13?
Byron Black.
Black. And nobody for 14. We don't know anybody for 14. We have a motion to vote for Criswell for 11, Traxler for 12, and Black for 13, and no one for 14. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. If you're in favor of voting for Criswell for 11, Traxler for 12, and Black for 13, please vote. Motion to pass.
Wait. That's not supposed to be on. Excuse me. That's all.
Well, you have the opportunity to vote against the motion to accept these people. There we are. So, The motion has passed, not unanimously, 3 opposed and 4 for. Item 5I, take any action necessary as a result of the executive session, and there is no action necessary as a result of executive session. We are moving on to item number 6, staff and board reports. Mr. Ramey, you got 3 minutes.
All right. Set the timer
So
there.
you figure out what you want to say in 3 minutes.
Okay,
And
again,
Mr.
Mayor.
Vasquez, you get ready.
All right, Mayor and Council, again, good evening. I just wanted to point out that we did have 3 new hires. One, I think, is a good news story, is Marius actually left to go to the Dallas County, found the grass was actually greener over here, and he came back. So it was I think it was a huge victory, and I think it is a good testament to the city and the work that we do. Dan, we got promoted out of utility billing, and then we also got a new equipment services foreman, Eric Painter. He was previously with utilities, went to the police, was a police officer for 5 years, and then he came back to us. Again, just recent accomplishments. I know we've mentioned this a few times, but the city did get recognized as a bronze scenic city, and that presentation will be at TML. And again, that was led up by Chastity Allen Benson, our city planner. Concrete construction crew continues to go out and do yeoman's work in the neighborhoods. Since our last one, they completed Flame East. They're in the middle of Flame West, and then they will continue with West Park, and then head south to Silver Creek and West Spring Hills neighborhoods. Just one of recent accomplishments in code enforcement. Again, some of these just go to the how long they take, but again, we had a case where we were working with multiple vehicles parking in unimproved surfaces, and got them to comply with a new driveway. Work plan status, as you can see here, we've got a bunch in progress, several that were completed. And then just our metrics. One of the things that I do want to point out, some of the discrepancies again down in the drainage and then the inlets, those were tied to just a dry season. The potholes significantly increased, but that's only because when we repair potholes, or when we make prepare the roads to receive microsurfacing treatments, we do have to do some work on our part, and so those are considered potholes. And then again, one of the other highlights with building inspections, which is misleading, that 1,000 that we did last year was actually tied to approximately 60 brand new homes. Each of those comes with multiple inspections throughout the process. And then actually those were covered by our a contract that we bring in to help with a surge on inspections, Bureau Veritas. So our normal building inspector, his normal workflow is about 850 inspections that he can do in that period. Subject to your questions.
Any questions?
Just a comment. The sidewalk crew, I've got like 3 emails complimenting the city on taking care of the sidewalks. It's a good.
Ms. Jamison.
When are you going to remove those, what do they call those, workhorse things there at Jungle and Frank Kiesler, where you stopped, put so people can't go up that little?
Are you referring to Escuela? We're actually, as the project for the service roads and stuff goes through, that is all scheduled to actually go away. So Escuela is actually a TxDOT right-of-way that is basically obsolete, and the reason why we keep the barriers up there is because we get a lot of runoff that you would come down Escuela and then go down Bow Creek and add additional
I'm
rainfall.
not talking about the humps. The humps that are in the street itself are fine, but you've got those stupid white wooden horse.
Well, we do have some of those barrier horses, sawhorse style, but they're there to let people know that Escuela is closed.
Well, it looks like then that we could do something else, because it looks like it stays in constant, like somebody's working on it. I get asked that all the time.
Okay.
And, I mean,
We can definitely look at that, ma'am.
it
yeah.
looks like somebody just forgot it and left it. And then on code enforcement, we have, do you have people that are working at night and on weekends?
We have one code officer that is on duty Saturday mornings. That is it. Our code officers are employed for an 8 o'clock to 5 p.m. shift.
Well, I will tell you, when I leave here tonight, the way I drive home, I will see 5 cars parked in a yard. And that is not even, that's like cutting through, cutting, I think it's Davis, left on Davis, right on Shenandoah, and then up Hill City, and there are cars parked all over the yards. All over the yards. I don't see them coming, so they've gotten home from work, and they're there. It's very tacky.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just encourage you to have people work after hours, because it's like when they get home that they come and park in the yards. During the daytime, they're gone, they're not there.
Councilmember Jameson, our citizens on patrol also note code violations, and we'll make sure that we'll add that to their list of things to highlight and to watch for. And they are out in the evenings.
Did they work at night?
Yes, the citizens on patrol, yes. The citizens on patrol, but they're out at night, so they also note code violations for us, and that's one we will make sure that to highlight with them.
Okay, thank you very much. Received the library quarterly report and work plan update.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'll make this quick.
How much time do you need?
3 minutes.
Start the timer.
All right. So this summer, we had another successful summer reading club. We had 734 completed logs. Several community partners provided prizes for our participants. The Friends of the Duncanville Library provided 4 Kindle Fire tablets to our grand prize winners, all of which were young adults who won those. We had 74 total programs over the summer, with 2,434 total attendees for those programs. We also had 13 wonderful teen volunteers that helped us and provided 168 hours of assistance during those programs. Here's some photos just to highlight some of the programs we had. We had a kickoff party for the event, a reptile event here with snakes and lizards. We also had some live music. David Chicken, who's a performer, as well as Lisa Connor, was there. We had the Grace Hula Dancers. Once again, we've had them before. That's always a wonderful event for us. We also had some new, we had the Mondo drummers we've had before, and then a new pint-sized polka event, which was a great event too. That's a new one for us too. And we completed with our final event at the end of July with the Ballet Folklorico, which is a wonderfully well-attended event too. So for work plan items that we accomplished, we updated furniture in the teen, adult, and children's area to update our look to match our new paint. And then we also were in progress vetting a new ILS system for the library. We went out for RFP. We got 10 vendors back. We whittled them down to 3. We found our final one that we wanted. And then based on council approving budget, then we'll be able to go ahead with that project. And for F18 to date now, library visits, we've had 151,463 patrons visit. We've circulated 93,000 items. Interlibrary loan, we've lent out 156, received 33. We've added 1,471 new library card borrowers to the library in FY18. We've added 4,525 unique items to our collection. We've offered 305 programs with attendance of 7,260 folks. Computer usage, we've had 52,000 unique logins, accounting to 24,000 hours of usage. We've done 3,075 reference transactions, and we've logged 2,057 volunteer hours with our wonderful volunteers. And that's all I have for you.
Thank you very much.
No questions?
Thank you. Question?
I do have a question. I thought I read sign language. Did you mention sign language is coming up?
Oh, yeah, we do. We will be having 2 sign language events coming up. The Duncanville High School students will be teaching sign language to adults the second Saturday of every month, and they do it for class credit, and they did it with us this last semester, very successful. We also, in October, we're going to be offering a baby sign language story time on Tuesdays for a 6-week run. So we're looking forward to that event. That should be a wonderful event, too.
You know, I think that's a very important event. I didn't realize how important sign language it's really important to seniors as well as babies. But as I think about seniors, and I think about those that perhaps may experience strokes for some reason, but still have mobility of their hands, that sign language will really come in hand with that. I'm thinking about, unfortunately, I get personal, I'm thinking about my own mother who had a stroke before, and wishing she at least had some sign language to communicate to us. So for seniors who have not taken advantage of the sign language class and can, and even for children, I think it's an excellent opportunity. So thank you for doing that, and I appreciate it.
Oh, we were happy to have that opportunity for everyone, so thank you.
Okay, Mr. Summerlin, financial report. The bar has been set at 3 minutes.
Okay. July report should be at 83% of our budget. That's the benchmark. General fund summary, $11 million is our unreserved fund balance, 133 days of operations, and so that's about $4.8 million in excess of our 75 mark. Our property tax revenue overall is 100.3% of budget, and that's broken down at 99.6% of current property tax collections, 92.6% of prior year rolls are delinquent tax, and then our penalties and interest for people who are past due is at 197% of the budget. Sales tax revenue is about 5% higher than it was last year. Again, we're 2 months behind, so there's only 8 months of data that's reflected here in the charts that I'll show you in a moment. Overall, our general fund revenues are at 84.6% of the budget, and overall our expenditures are at 76% of the budget. So we're a little above on revenues and below on expenses, and that's right where we like to be. All right, there's the general fund revenues. You can see how they operate over time compared to a straight line. There's our general fund property taxes. Same deal. You see those shooting up and then leveling off through the months after February. Our general fund expenditures, on the red line, you can see how those started out a little above, came down to the line, and now we're at a nice little comfort zone below the line. The utility fund ending unreserved fund balance is $7.6 million. That's 140 days of operations, about $4.5 million in excess of the 60-day reserve. We've got a 1-month delay in our billing process, so there's only 9 months of revenue that's reflected. And our utility fund expenditures overall are 76% of the budget. Again, there's our utility fund revenues. During the summer months, we start trending back up towards that purple line, which is our budget. On our utility fund expenditures, we were very close to being at the line, and now we're dropped below the line, and hopefully we'll finish the year a little bit below the line. Our one-time project funds in yellow have been essentially completed, and with that, I'll take questions.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Hey, Mayor, out of respect to Richard and all the hard work we all put into financials, and out of respect to timing, I've been here, and I think others have been here when our meetings, unfortunately, has been extended for a long period of time. But I would hope that we will take another look at our agenda and the items on the agenda where we're not so pressed for time that we're losing precious information for those that are listening by TV or even who's here listening tonight. So I hope that we will go forward, look at our agenda, and make sure our agenda is at a pace where we're all comfortably getting information or questions in. Now, I'm not voting we stay to 12 o'clock, please understand that. I'm just voting we look at our agenda and make sure that we are getting the information that we need in a timely manner and don't feel it's rushed.
Thank you, Mr. Cooks, and in response to that, there are certain things that the city has to get done on a certain time frame, and our volunteer work as a city council sometimes takes a little more time than we anticipate, as it did tonight, and my thanks to the staff for staying this late and for the time that you put in. We appreciate it very much. This council is adjourned at 10:25.